Kil'jaeden, as a Horde recruit very rudely stands in front of me. People on the YouTube as well, welcome back to our lore tour as Zoval goes across the world learning more about the beautiful world of Warcraft and all the good stuff. I'm just going to bring up a page which tells me all the patches of Legion. So, last time on Dragon Ball Z, we did the story of Warlords of Draenor. And Draenor ended with alternate Gul'dan being sent over by our command into our universe. And I think it's still a bit up in the air if that our command was like our command but it time traveled, or if that was an alternate our command and our command is still out there. I always took it as we got to the point in the storyline where they wanted to get rid of the Burning Legion. They wanted to wrap up that storyline, and so they wanted our command to fall. And I think what they did was, with the whole twisting that it transcends realities and timelines and all that, I think that was just our command some way, somehow, time travel-y, wobbly, wibbly, taken care of an alternate Draenor. But neither here nor there. What happened was, Gul'dan is sent over to our reality. And as you might recall, the whole alternate Draenor situation happened because Varian had seen the coming of the Legion. And that got him shaken in his boots. And he thought, oh, an Azeroth divided will never be able to stand against what is to come. And so at first he tried to get the Alliance to take over the Horde. That didn't happen. And then he tried to make the Iron Horde and have that Horde stand with us. That didn't happen. But now the Legion showed up. And unfortunately, Varian didn't show up with Legion. Varian, who kind of caused it, who saw it coming, he used to have a part to play in Highmountain, but that no longer happened. So too bad. Poor Varian. He got a different storyline. He would come back in Battle for Azeroth. They weren't done with him quite yet. It's just not for this storyline, which is always a bit of a waste. So with Gul'dan coming over, we got a wonderful audio drama on the YouTube with... They established really well that this Gul'dan was not our Gul'dan. Our Gul'dan died at the Tomb of Sargeras of Warcraft 3. Our Gul'dan betrayed the Burning Legion. And in that audio drama, a big point that they made was that this Gul'dan was going to do things differently. This Gul'dan, while still being a Gul'dan, was going to play ball with the Legion and do what he needed to do. And what he needed to do was open up a massive gateway at the Tomb of Sargeras. And even though Khadgar Maiev tried to stop him, that's exactly what he did. The Burning Legion has invaded Azeroth once again. It is true. Good evening, Captain Peanut Butter. Hello there. So, with that massive gateway open up at the Broken Shore, Khadgar went around the world warning people like, oh, the Legion has come again. And we need to prepare. He did very much the Medivh thing. He turned himself into like a birdie, and he showed up at like Varian and Enwin's place, and he warned the world, and the world made ready to go to the Broken Shore. The Alliance and Horde working together on this one. They needed to get stuff ready. We'll talk about Illidan's background in a moment. But what we can talk about... No, we need to talk about Illidan. We need to talk about Illidan as well. Sorry, we can't let Illy Willy fly. Illidan Stormrage played a double agent during the War of the Ancients 10,000 years ago. He rolled up at Azhar's palace, and he's like, what up, Sargeras? I'll work with you, wink, wink. And Sargeras is like, oh, really, will you now? Well, let me just make sure of that. And he blessed Illidan, burned out his eyes, gave him tattoos, and eventually Illidan would become a demon hunter. And he learned a valuable lesson from Sargeras, which is the Legion is infinite. They could defeat them on Azeroth, but there would just be another invasion. And another invasion. They would never stop coming. Not until they cut off the head of the beast at the source. Not unless they traveled to Argus. So, Illidan knew this. But as Illidan, you know, he didn't know who he could trust. There could be Dreadlords anywhere. He also a bit of ego in there, you know, keeping his cards close to his chest. So Illidan, he kept it a little bit to himself, and people didn't really believe him. So they imprisoned him. Execution, Malfurion was like, no, don't kill my brother. We should imprison him. And instead of just imprisoning him and calling it a day, what the bastards did was give him immortality as well. So now his life sentence was forever. And you might say, oh, well, at least he could step out himself. No, 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 no. They made sure that there were spells in place that prevented him from stepping out himself. 10,000 years, locked beneath in darkness. That was Illidan's fate. But throughout the years, there was one thing keeping him going. And you might think, was it vengeance? Was it the defense of Azeroth? Was it taking down the Burning Legion? No, 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 no. It was gooning for Tyrande Whisperwind. Tyrande, my love. Seeing your face is looking upon the stars themselves. What can I do for you? Illidan, I know I've locked you away for 10,000 years, but I need you now. Go help. Yes, Tyrande, my love, I will right away. So that's what happened. Tyrande set him free. Illidan did the whole Warcraft free finding Burning Legion thing. Until we got to the point where he was banished from their lands by Malfurion and Tyrande for doing the exact thing that they wanted him to do, was take care of the Legion. Yes, he kind of absorbed the Skull of Gul'dan, got his memories, and got incredibly powerful. Yes, he kind of went to the Tomb of Sargeras, got the Eye of Sargeras, and tried to destroy the Lich King, but in exchange also kind of destroyed nearly the world. But can you really blame the guy? He was on a mission, okay? And Illidan will do whatever it takes. He just couldn't take down Arthas, which was a bit of a shame. But at some point, Illidan, he decided, you know what, I'm going to hide on Outland, and I'm going to work on my plans. I'm going to bring down the Legion, even if it kills me. And there were more that were thinking more and more like Illidan did. There were more who lost their families and their loved ones that showed up at Illidan. They were like, I am willing to sacrifice everything in order to take down the Legion. And so, Night Elves and Blood Elves, some were provided by Kil'jaeden, also Night Elves that showed up. They went through rituals. A little bit of an adjustable thing. Like in Illidan's case, his eyes were burned out by Sargeras. In his Demon Hunter's case, they were shown what Illidan was shown, and the imagery was so awful that they tore out their own eyes. And you might think, Noble, did you just make that up? Did you just make up your own lore? I'm like, nah. That is actual canon lore in the Illidan novel. It is one of the more brutal stories you can find there. And if you are interested in Demon Hunter lore, if you want to know more about that, I would highly recommend picking up. The Illidan novel is kind of great. So they went through the rituals, they went through their things. And Illidan worked on plans on getting his shots at Argus, at the home base of the Legion, the one spot where they could actually kill demons. They've established the rules that demons only die within the Twisting Nether, or planets completely infused with the Vel, right? And what did they see? They basically saw that, I'm paraphrasing here, so please, I can't quote it. But they saw what Illidan saw in the form of the Legion is endless. It doesn't matter if we stop Sargeras here. They'll keep on coming. If Sargeras wins, the universe is doomed. I shouldn't be paraphrased. I could look it up for you. Hang on. There was madness here on an incomprehensible scale. The Legion existed only to destroy. It would not stop until everything everywhere was dead, and then it would turn on itself with all its savagery until nothing remains. It was a vision of unspeakable horror. The worst of it was that he knew now how strong the Legion was. Nowhere in all the worlds and all existence was any force capable of defeating it. Now you know the truth. Join us. The voice was back. This time there was a wheedling, pleading note, but he sensed the same hunger lay behind it. Never. Reality shifted. He stood amid the shattered heart of a tower. A carpet of blackened bones crunched beneath his feet. A fellhound lurched forward, determined to kill him. He stooped, picked up a broken rib, and stabbed the demon through the heart. It was easier this time, and he felt stronger, as if each time he slew the beast he gained part of his strength. Once again he opened its chest cavity, drank its blood, and devoured its heart. A titanic vision smashed into his brain. This time he saw not just one universe, but a near infinity of them. A complex fractal structure, where new worlds were born each minute from the decisions made a heartbeat before. Everywhere, the burning Legion marched, destroying world after world. Every death narrowed the range of possible worlds, till eventually all the multitude of possibilities narrowed to but a few. In every one of them, the Legion marched triumphant, leaving future stillborn and presence empty of all life. He saw countless Azeroths, countless Vendels, and countless Cariels, and to every one of them came death. He saw his child die in an infinity of different ways, and in every one of those possible worlds, he was powerless to prevent it. In every world, in every future, the burning Legion strode, invincible, unstoppable, dooming the universe to eternal darkness in its wake. Behind it all, he saw the looming demonic figures of his leaders, Archimond, who was believed dead by so many, Kil'jaeden, and above all others, Sargeras, the fallen titan, once sworn to guard the universe, now bent on destroying it. On and on the visions roared, tearing through his brain, goading him to the edge of madness and beyond. And every time he saw one, part of him died, and the demon within him fed on his agony and gloated. He covered his eyes with his hands, but it did not stop the horrors from flowing in. He squeezed his eyes tight shut, but still he saw and saw and saw, until he could bear no more. Drowning in horror, he inserted his fingers into his eye sockets, feeling the blood flow and the jelly puncture beneath his nails. He pulled and pulled and pulled, straining against muscle and optic nerve until his eyeballs came free with a hideous sucking sound. At the last moment, before horror overwhelmed him, he realized this was what Illidan once saw. This was what had turned him into what he was. The betrayer had walked this path before him. This whole ritual was intended to recreate his experience. Pain seared through Vendal's skull. Darkness. Silence. So my paraphrasing wasn't even that far off, to be honest. Good job, Brain. Hey! So again, that's the Illidan novel. And Nauta, thank you very much for that 120... 124. Easy clap. Thank you. Yeah, we're on so far. We're doing the lore tour. We're just started. Yes, we're doing the intro. Setting up how we got where we are. And we got to the point of Illidan... Illidan making his demon hunter recruits and them going through the rituals. They have to show what Sargeras saw. Also horrifying to put these characters in despair. What they describe doesn't sound scary enough to justify it. For Sargeras, his motivation as it stands right now is... in his mind, he saw a corrupted titan. One taken by the void. And that is what pushed him into purging the universe. Like, he could not let the Void Lords and the Old Gods plan succeed. Because in his mind, if that titan would rise up... the universe was doomed. It would devour itself. So in his mind, it was better to purge it, because a purged universe that had a chance at life to grow. Whereas with the Void, it would just devour itself and be completely gone. It's a small thing, but it's the one thing that kept him a little bit different from the Void. But you're absolutely 100% right. Isn't he doing the same thing that he was so worried about? Yeah, he is. It's just, in his mind, there's a small chance at it being better than the Void taking over. Oily, thank you very much for the 39 as well. There's a whole quest line with that one, Gary. In the Night Fae Order Hall campaign, they save her. So in that regard, like, they do double down here on the idea of infinite universes, multiverse. Every choice, every life becomes a different world, different planets. But we spoke about it during Warlords as well, where they made the choice that the Twisting Nether transcends all of these realities. Which is, in my mind, unfathomable. How are you going to do that? That's like one of the biggest choices that I'm like, what are you talking about? Because if the Legion transcends realities, that means they already had Azeroth. So why is our reality still the last one standing, right? What is so special about our Azeroth? Does that not mean that there are infinite possibilities of a Void Corrupted Titan would take over the universe? Doesn't that mean that there's already a universe where we lost? Doesn't that mean that there's a universe where we won? As well as, in the system of infinite universes, how does it work with the combination of, if you don't mess with an alternate reality, it goes away on its own? It conflicts with stuff. But, yeah, it's neither here nor there. Back to Legion, back to where we are. Illidan makes his demon hunters, prepares to strike at the heart of the Legion at Argus. He makes like anchor points at Argus from the Black Temple. So he basically set up a gateway between the Black Temple and Argus, which made me wonder if from the book they, at some point, they had the plan of, we're going to go into Argus from the Black Temple. As we know in-game, that's not how it went down. It made me wonder if that was the original plan. Could be. It could also be Ryder's freedom, and that they decided, this could be a cool plan, maybe they'll do something with it. Next to that, there's another part. In the Illidan novel, they're speaking about the child of shadow and light, and this also comes back in the Light's Heart questline, where Zera, the prime Naru, is looking for the destined child. She is looking for Illidan Stormrage. Why? Illidan is destined to become the child of shadow and light. And in the Illidan novel, they speak about Illidan being light-infused. In my mind, and we even made thumbnails back then, the pictures. In my mind, it was like Super Saiyan Illidan, light-infused and all the good stuff. But of course, they did something else with it. And in my opinion, that's one of the more brilliant things they've ever done in the lore. Because when I read that vision in the book, I was like, I don't know how I feel about taking everything away that I love about Illidan. I don't know what I feel about this destiny, but I also remember saying, like, it's not set in stone quite yet. Right now, it's only a vision, right? I could still be different. And they used it in such a cool way, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So that's on Illidan's part. At some point, this is back in the Burning Crusade. We, of course, as Illidan was the bad guy back then. This is a little bit of a retcon. There's an interview from BlizzCon. There's a Q&A where people are like, could we bring back Illidan? And Madsen is like, oh, I'm a sucker for a redemption story. Could we? Maybe. We'll have to figure it out. And they did. But back then, in our minds, Illidan was still the bad guy. And I will say, messing with your lore, going back and rewriting what you wrote before, is tricky, is dangerous. We've known examples where that goes horribly wrong, right? And now all of a sudden, your motivations changed and everything is different and it's not for the better. But in my opinion, Illidan is one of those examples where it was done right. I think that they've done a wonderful job of Illidan, but of course that is also personal taste. So in the Burning Crusade, as we charged the Black Temple, we made ready to get our glaives, we made ready to get our fat loot. Illidan was weakened from doing like rituals, and Illidan sent out his demon hunters to get the Sargerite Keystone. So he sent out some of his most powerful forces. And what is the Sargerite Keystone? The Sargerite Keystone is a plot device that Blizzard didn't think about too long, in my opinion. Because the thing is like a key to all worlds, or all Legion worlds, one could say. And so this key, this Sargerite Keystone, Illidan could use to get to Argus, right? Like a nice backup plan. And Sargeras could use that key to get anywhere he wanted as well. Now he left it on... Oh god, what was it called? Nishkara? I think it was called Nishkara. He left it on the world where you make your Demon Hunter for the first time. And Illidan's Demon Hunters, as I said, they were sent out to get the Sargerite Keystone and they brought it back to Illidan. But the error in the lore, or the bit of the conflicting part, is that for millennia, exactly, as Maplelost, you can't read it, but as Maplelost just mentioned, why couldn't Sargeras use it himself to get to Azeroth? Exactly, that is the mistake in there, because, why couldn't he? And there's no real reason for it. He had it since the beginning, and I've heard people argue, like, he couldn't use it because Azeroth is not a Legion world or whatever, but we see Illidan use it later. So, if Illidan could use it to make a massive rift between Argus and Azeroth, then why could Sargeras not use it to make a massive rift between Azeroth and Argus? That part is like, I don't think that they thought that one through too much. But, it's a minor thing, ain't it? Either way, here or there. Demon Hunter's mission is successful. They come back with the Sargerite Keystone. They got what they needed. They can finally strike at the heart of the Legion. But, uh-oh! What do they see? The heroes, or the so-called heroes. They've been able to take down the Lord of Outland. Illidan has been defeated, slain by Maiev, Shadow Song, and now the Warden imprisons the Demon Hunters as well. So Illidan is dead. Wink. And his body is imprisoned in the vault of the Wardens. And so are his Demon Hunters for a very long time. But what we saw on Alternate Draenor is that one of the Wardens that was with Khadgar, who is called... Last time I remembered it, this time not so much. Oh, because she was called something. I want to say Naisha, but it's not Naisha. Maybe somebody in the chat knows. Anyways, there was a Warden. Syrah Moon Warden? Was it Syrah? Maybe it was Syrah. Sure, Syrah. Who touched one of the items. Cordana! Thank you. Sebi Webs. You absolute mad lads. Sebi, get some protein bars in or something. Right? Thank you very much for raid. Welcome, everybody. Have I killed anything? I've killed one thing. I've killed the robot in the introductionary questline. That's the one thing that I killed. So if we go to my stats, Then we can see that I've killed one thing. It was mechanical, and it was the robot. I'm really sad, actually. I wanted to kind of not kill anything. I didn't know that this was going to be a thing, but here we are. So we were just talking, everybody, about our introduction into Legion. We were talking about Illidan and his beautiful plans. So they got the Sargerite Keystone, but Illidan's killed. His body's imprisoned. His demon hunters are imprisoned. But as you spoke about, Gul'dan, alternate Gul'dan, is on Azeroth, and he opened up a massive rift to bring in the Burning Legion. Uh-oh, whoopsie-daisy. Azeroth is going to take everything that it has in order to defend the world. And what better weapon to use than those demon hunters that were locked away by Maiev, right? So, in a way, Maiev Shadowsong at this point does what she was so upset about with Tyrande way back when in Warcraft 3. Because Tyrande let Illidan out because she believed that Illidan was, you know, the weapon, the play to save the world against the Burning Legion. And now Maiev does it with his demon hunters. But in the case of Maiev, unfortunately, her character took a different path. And they had different plans with her at some point. So, in the case of Maiev, she did the whole speech with Illidan at the top of the Black Temple, where Illidan goes, Maiev, the hunter is nothing without the hunt. See, Sebi Iker voice act as well. And then she goes like, he is right. I feel nothing. I am nothing. Now what do I do? And as it turns out, she went back home, where Malfurion and Tyrande were like, you know what we should do? We should totally let magic back into our society. The same magic that summoned the Burning Legion at some point. And Maiev is like, are you kidding me? Are you shitting me right now? I guarded Illidan for 10,000 years. And you're just gonna let magic back in? No. No. I don't think so. I don't think so. So she nearly murdered Malfurion. Flayed him, burned him, nearly. Yeah, I bet you didn't know that part, because it never made it into the game. It was purely in the books. And her brother Jared scared her away, and she was like, I'll get you next time, Malfurion. Next time! But that next time would never come. Instead, they had a change of heart when it comes to Maiev's character, and they decided, if we're going to bring back Illidan, we also want to bring back Maiev, but not the murderous Maiev, not the evil Maiev. That's going to be Cordana. We want to bring back Maiev as we knew her. So they wrote off that storyline of the book as Jared, her brother, misunderstanding the situation is basically where it came down to. He was like, yeah, my sister nearly killed Malfurion, but I kinda came to the wrong conclusion on that one. Whoops, that was on me. So that's basically how they wrote it off. And how did she beat Malfurion? He is super strong. With like traps. Because she's a warden. Like traps and hanging them up. I need to double check the book what exactly she did with him. And I know she killed one of the high elves from Dire Maul. She burned him alive. So she was laying down traps and whatnot. So Malfurion is definitely powerful, but he's not invincible, right? It's like if you stab him in the back and if he's not paying attention, he will still die. So that was a thing. Anywho, Maiev back in charge, releasing the Demon Hunters. And all of this is to set up us going to the Broken Shore. So we saw the introductory cutscene, which I don't think we've actually shown in previous playthroughs, but we're going to check it out. Because again, Legion is special, okay? Legion has a special place in my heart. This expansion is bizarre. Bizarre for the amount of content. Was it perfect? No. There's never been an expansion that's perfect. But my god, is it... For me, it's one of up there, if not the favorite one. It is insane. Right. Cinematics. Where are you? Yeah. I can't pause this, can I?
My son. A terrible darkness has returned to our world. As before, it seeks to annihilate everything that we hold dear. I go to face it, knowing I may not return.
That's my king right there.
They're coming! They're coming back!
Still such a weird port of Anduin.
All my life I have lived by the sword. I've seen kingdoms burn, and watched brave heroes die in vain.
I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure Legion is like 10 years ago.
After losing so much.
Sylvanas! No!
But from you, I have learned patience, tolerance, and faith.
2016. Fucking hell. Your War Queen, ooh la la.
Open fire!
And we spoke about it last time, how in the old lore, demons were considered as like these epic, mythical, legendary beings. Look how far the lore has come. Look at how Azeroth charges in to a fucking army of them. Here we go, here we go. Fallen, baby. Hell yeah. Also, the quality of the cinematic is fucking insane. It still looks so fucking good. Well, time for a swim. It's all over, man. It's all over.
Anduin, I now believe, as you do, that peace is the noblest aspiration. But to preserve it, you must be willing to fight.
He's splitting Charlemagne apart. Hell yeah. And just lore-wise, there is so much that's happening here. Like it really plays into like the story of Varian, where he's writing this letter that he writes to his Anduin, writes to his son. And Varian, for the longest time, had to try and overcome his prejudice, his history, the inner rage inside. And it's really the culmination of his entire story arc, which brings it together here in the Broken Shore, where he is able and willing to work together with someone like Sylvanas Windrunner. Now, unfortunately, they've, of course, torpedoed a lot of the storylines that were there, but take it as a capsule in that moment, right? Take it as just at that moment in that time. Being able to work together with someone like Sylvanas is a huge step for the Alliance and the Horde to come together. As I mentioned, the whole idea of, like, you can even compare it to Warcraft 3, where there's, like, one of those, God, what do you call them, fell elementals dropping down. And here, they just fly straight into an army, the biggest invasion of the Legion that the world has ever seen. I remember the promotion like it was yesterday, and we got some serious ass handed to us in that moment. Now, when it comes to Legion as well, and this is something that I will carry with me forever, I witnessed the announcements of Legion at BlizzCon itself. And then I was also allowed to go backstage and see, not a BlizzCon, but like see a tour of the factory of like Blizzard itself. And to see how the sausage is made was insane. There were no refrigerators, there were no crawls that was happening. There was no alcohol as far as I could see. But just the amount of passion and workload and just a vision that they were working on was insane. And I got a chat here and there. And that they were also like, maybe we've taken on a little bit too much, but we're going to do our best. And they did. Like, they definitely did their best. Like, you can talk about the quality and story directions and all the good stuff, but just out of the sheer volume that came out of Legion, it's insane, the amount of content we actually got to play through. Remind me that I need to talk about Marcus as well. Oh, I can actually talk about it now. So during that tour, there was also one extra thing that was added, which was really, really cool. We once upon a time, and I mean a bunch of content creators and Kalis did the machinima, and basically my role was bringing people together and narrate it. But we did a video series called The Steamy Romance Novels. The Steamy Romance Novels were books that they published in-game, and they were like jokey, sexy stories in-game. So there was a paladin doing an undead, and there were jokes in there like, did you bring protection? Oh, I've got the bubble, right? But then better. Starring Marcus. But at the time, Marcus had no model in-game. So Kalis, she did her own design of Lord Marcus. She came up with something. And the really, really cool part, something that I will take with me forever, is when we did the Blizzard tour, one of the developers pulled me over. They were like, Noble, come check it out. And they pulled up Marcus' model, the one that Kalis had envisioned. And they said, yeah, we're going to be putting Marcus in the game. I was like, fucking hell, that's so cool. We also got an email from the one who actually worked on the Steamy Romance novels. Like, thank you for your rendition. It was so fun to see. That video is one of the ones that I'm proudest of to this day. So what happened in Legion is that our Marcus actually has a model. You can see him in Highmountain. And the way that he looks was designed by Kalis, and Blizzard picked it up. So that's... Sometimes people ask, like, do you have a model in game? It's like, nah, I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think Krendor is the last one. But we do have some effect on the game. So that's kind of cool. No, I'll always take that with. So Legion, here we are. Biggest invasion. Let's go to the Broken Shore. We need to prepare ourselves. I will skip the introduction.
Go for.
Because the introduction would require killing and doing stuff. And we are just exploring the world. We'll go there. Don't worry about it. We will go there. Welcome to Gul'dan. Let me just turn in the quest. Because that will activate the Hearthstone.
What can I do for you?
Yeah,
the Alliance.
Thank you. And now there's going to be... Come join our order hall. Please come join our order hall. Yeah. Oh, that's fun. They actually put you in a different time zone. So, the introductionary experience for the Alliance and Horde is that together they go into the Broken Shore. And basically they walk into a death trap. And this is something where I'm like, are we that dumb? Is that really how we roll? Because what happens in the introductionary story is that the Alliance and Horde go in. And at some point, the units of the Burning Legion, the might is just overwhelming. So much so that we have like a Thrall crawling on the ground. Vol'jin is nearly dead, telling Sylvanas like the Horde cannot die this day. Sylvanas is forced to call the Valkyrie, is forced to call the retreat. To which Varian and Gen Greymane having a massive history with Sylvanas, lost his son to her arrow, was still willing to work with her even though that history for his king. They look up and they see the Horde abandon them. But like, in my mind, I always thought, hang on a minute. We're not that dumb, right? Like, we have contingency plans. We have escape plans, right? If we ever notice that the Legion is too powerful, surely you sat around your war table and you were like, okay, if you blow your horn, we know that it's time to retreat, right? But that's not the way it goes. Instead, they're like, oh, the Horde has left the battlefield. Oh, Orgus. That's how they did. I knew we couldn't trust them, and it's like, are we here on a mission where it's either we'll get wiped out or we save the day? There's no in between. Is that what we're doing here? And Methuselah as well. But either way, the Horde betrays the Alliance. They call the retreat. They abandon the Broken Shore. To which Gen Greymane and Varian and the Alliance forces, they try to jump into their ship. And again, that cutscene is just so epic. I wonder if I can show it. All right, let's try this, shall we? Bomb, chicka, womp, bomb. It's going really, really well. That quality is atrocious. Oh. So Varian at this point is like, we'll finish this now, call in the gunship. And Varian is like, yeah, no. You know what? We'll do it differently. Hang on. Because if the qualities ain't there, the quality ain't there. This one is 2.8. Let's do this one. This better?
Hold fast! Becator! We finished this now! Call in the gunship!
Way ahead of you, sir. Transangulating our positions right now.
Get it! Get it! My lord! Push forward!
So Varian at this point, very much like, oh yeah, we're gonna win this. Don't worry about it, we got this. Meanwhile, the Horde is not having a wonderful time.
Get Windrunner's archers to clear the skies!
But I will say, like, for the longest time they were talking about doing story from a point of view. And the Broken Shore is, in my opinion, one of the ones where they've actually done a fantastic job with two different experiences. Where if you only did it on the Horde side, you were like, yeah, obviously we pulled back. And if you only did it on the Alliance side, it's like, yeah, obviously you betrayed us. It's only when you play both sides that you're like, yeah, but hang on a minute. Neither side is right or wrong here. As we're going to bring up the cutscene as we were in the midst of it, and then ads rudely interrupted it. So at this point on the Horde side, the Horde is just overrun. Thrall crawling on the ground, Vol'jin nearly dead. Sylvanas, you cannot let the Horde die this day. So Sylvanas blows her horn, calls to retreat, and this is what the Alliance sees.
No. No, she wouldn't.
No, she wouldn't. And this always confused the snap out of me. Because I'm Varian, like, what are you talking about? Why wouldn't she? If your army gets overwhelmed, that's what you do, right? Like, you pull the retreat. Like, okay, we'll go back to fight another day. What do you expect it to do? Just the Horde dies?
I knew it! I knew we couldn't trust her!
That part I never really got. But okay, now we need to make a retreat. Get everybody out of there.
Without the Horde, we'll be overrun! We must retreat! Get everyone to the gunship! Everyone! Fall back!
But Gul'dan ain't gonna let you go. That freaking sound, man. Whoa, that sound.
Varian!
Take this to my son.
Take this to my son.
Just one shots the Fel Reaver, you know. Yeah, this will be up on YouTube as well, Doom. Yeah, we're doing a Lore Tour series on the YouTube, so I'm recording it. It will be up later. And the files as well. Yeah. Toying with him, by the way. Toying with him. Aye, but it's simply too much. Gul'dan goes down, baby.
You will be remembered as the king who sacrificed his life for nothing.
And this wonderful voice acting is then followed by one of the hardest lines, in my opinion. Because remember how in the introductory cutscene, Varian was very much like, "For Azeroth, we're united!" How do they send off the king of the Alliance?
For the Alliance.
And then he got disenchanted. But, you know, the send-off was awesome. And that is how we started our intro into Legion. That is how it began. The biggest Legion invasion. And we got our asses handed to us. For the first time, we started an expansion losing. And that was awesome. It was absolutely awesome. The only thing that I'm like, okay, that's a real shame, is that from this point on, we would just start mowing down anything and everything that came in front of us. And you might argue, well, yeah, you can't really make us lose, but I would have liked it if this so-called biggest Legion ever would have actually put up more of a fight. But, you know, it is what it is, I suppose. And it's in a similar way how they start the War Within. Lots of destruction, a lot of sacrifice, and it kind of just goes back to the status quo afterwards. It's like, alright. But, again, in its own pocket, this intro was awesome. And from here on out, the factions would not really come into play anymore. And I've heard it through the grapevine. Rumor has it. Hang on, do I need to smooch? Hell yeah. Smooch. Heard it through the grapevine that they had more in mind when it comes to the faction war, but due to development or whatever, that didn't come to the front line, that didn't come to the surface. But in my opinion, it would have made more sense for what we saw go down in Stormheim. It would have made more sense for the overarching story, but I didn't necessarily need the faction war to be the thing, because instead of the faction war, what we got was that the classes themselves became the focus point. And that shit was awesome. Like, every single class was taken into Dalaran, and they were sent off to their own individual places, their own order halls. So Paladin, you got an order hall. Death Knight, you got an order hall. And inside order hall, you have a main campaign that plays out. Some of the campaigns are better than others. Why? Well, some of them literally do what other campaigns do. So, for example, Paladin and Priest, they have like portions that are identical. And you might argue, well, that's because they're working together and whatnot. But I'm like, yeah, but if one of them has like completely unique campaign and the other has something that they share, there's definitely a certain ranking that you can apply. But at the same time, making a campaign for every single class is a tall order. I will say though, for me, the monk one was the most disappointing one. Because I love Pandaria. Pandaria is my first, if not my second, favorite expansion. And I felt like they could have done way more with the Pandaren than, oh yeah, they like brewing beer. But then, my favorite one is the Death Knight one. The Death Knight one, oh my god. The Death Knight one was so fucking good. With bringing the horsemen, recruiting them yourself, becoming the High Lord, Bolvar. Like, obviously, the Lich King storyline is awesome. But there was this mystery being built up with Bolvar maybe becoming a bad guy, falling to darkness. Obviously, again, I'm containing it to Legion only. It was sick. Absolutely sick. I loved it so much. So let me look up a list of all the classes, and then we can check out what they did. All classes, wow. If you're like, oh, I would love to check out these Order Hall campaigns, you can still do them. I also got playlists up with like videos where we go over them. But we have. This is from memory, by the way. Forgive me if I don't remember the entire thing. Death Knights brought together the Four Horsemen with the climax in which they wanted to resurrect Tyrion Fordring. They went to Light Hope Chapel, a parallel to how the Lich King once upon a time sent them out, right? Arthur's the Lich King, Bolvar the Lich King. Their assault on Light Hope was, of course, a failure, to which Varian stepped up and became the next horseman. Or was that always Bolvar's plan? And that speculation, that bit was always awesome. Demon Hunters dealt with the extension of their initial quest from Illidan, in which he sent them out to get the Sargerite Keystone. They had like their floating spaceship on the demon world of Karesh. And eventually they tracked down Illidan's spirit in the Twisted Nether, as the Demon Hunters realized that becoming a Demon Hunter has some perks, meaning that now, just like the demons, you can no longer truly die in the physical universe. You can only die within the Twisted Nether or places that are infused with Fel. So that meant that Illidan's soul was somewhat immortal and did not go to the Shadowlands. He was just chilling in the Twisted Nether, where we got to bring him back. Druids had a sick Order Hall campaign in which they dealt with the Emerald Nightmare, Val'sharah, Emerald Nightmare, and this allowed them to show us what the War of the Ancients actually looked like for the demigods. So you would see like a Malorn or Cenarius fighting with Archimon and shit. It was awesome. Like visually, the Druid Order Hall was great. Story-wise, I remember it not being massive, but visually it was really, really cool. Evokers weren't a thing. Hunters realized that there's a Hunter Order Hall where they're badass hunters like and rangers like a Rexar and a Vrisa and Halduran, everybody's part of. They had a disappointing Order Hall campaign because they tracked down Hakkar. And not Hakkar the Soul Flayer. They tracked down Hakkar the demon from the War of the Ancients, who has like Fellhounds and whatnot. But the disappointing part was they didn't give Hakkar his own unique model. And if you look up Hakkar on Google on the trading card game, he's actually like a badass model. And this time they just gave him a basic model. Hakkar the Houndmaster, correct. Mages dealt with Elodai, which you might remember from the Warcraft movie, but Elodai is more connected to the First Guardian. They dealt with Kafrnatir, the Dreadlord, and I think there was some defenses of Dalaran needed fixing. Ultimately, they imprisoned Kafrnatir, which was like this Dreadlord from way in the days, connected to Valera Sanguinar and... not Alonsus, but the other dude, Merrill Fellstorm. And I remember that... Millhouse Manostorm was pissed off because we promised that he was going to have like the soul container, but we were like, yeah, we can't do that now because it contains Kafrnatir. So go F yourself. And then we had an Order Hall. Monks brew beer. That's all I really remember about. I think the monks get attacked by the demons at their training hall in Pandaria because I remember that it still faces wrong in Mob Remix. With Chen saving people. You have some cool quest lines with Lily and whatnot. That was nice to see. But ultimately, they just kind of come together to brew some beer, and then they defeat the demon forces. Paladins are a Order Hall that is shared with the priests. Paladins dealt with the Lightheart quest line, which was a piece of Zera sent over to Azeroth, which was like a warning from Tyrion. No, from Tyrellian. From Tyrellian and Illyria. We'll get to that in a moment. What else did the Paladins do? Come on, you played that Order Hall. It's your main character. What do you mean you don't remember? There was a Dreadlord. Oh, Mephisto? No. A well-known Dreadlord. I am... not Varimafras. Was it Varimafras? No, Varimafras was the one who failed them. Melganis was the one who never showed up again. Was it Mephisto? Maybe. There was like... oh, yeah. And there was... oh, my God. There was Lofrexian, who was like a light-infused Dreadlord. And he was like, hey, yo, what up? I got some messages from the Army of the Light. There's an attack coming and you need to unite. And so we did. And we fought back against the Dreadlords. Lofrexian, Balnazar. Was it Balnazar? Well, there you go. The actual Dalaran storyline. Is that not what mages did in Legion? What do you mean, Kralt? What do you mean? I do not understand the question. Priests. Like I said, priests share a bit of that storyline with the Paladins, where they unite as, you know, the Light Wielders, and they go against it. There was parts in there with the return of Kalia Menethil, sister to Arthas Menethil. There was also Alonsus Val, who speaks about some sort of secret war, and coincidentally put priest on getting the relic called Zalatath. I'm just throwing it out there. Alonsus, a little bit sus. Basically, the priest did have one gorgeous Order Hall, I will say. They had like the Void, and had the Light, and then Balance in the middle. And yeah, like I said, I think they united against Balnazar, if I remember right. Rogue Order Hall campaign. Oh god, Rogue Order Hall campaign brought together a whole bunch of rogues. Amongst them, Miss Vanessa Van Cleef, which you might remember from the Dead Mines, but we never killed her. There was also Noggenfogger, and that is really cool Order Hall in the Dalaran sewers. What did they do for the questline? Well, Kieran got killed, which put them on this mystery. Oh god, think, what did the rogues do? He infiltrated Ravenhold. Oh, right! Oh, how could we forget? The rogues uncovered a scheme. So we spoke about how the Broken Shore was a death trap, right? Yeah, that was a death trap with a reason. Turns out that the Dreadlords had actually infiltrated the SI-7. And the SI-7 is like the intelligence force for the Alliance. And, well, they gave, like, misintel and they didn't prepare them proper. That still doesn't excuse that they didn't have, like, an escape plan. That doesn't excuse it, but at least it explains better why it was the death trap, which was kind of cool. Oh, and the paladins in their artifact. I will talk about the artifact later. Ha! Thank you very much, LED Rogue. She die, I'm sure of it. Not like I send it on quest all the time. We were sending on quest all the time. What? Huh? Shamans. Oh, yeah, Shamans was awesome. Shamans did something unheard of, which was unite the elemental lords of Azeroth against the might of the Burning Legion. And you gotta keep in mind that the elemental lords, they fought with each other very, very much so. And then the old gods showed up who enslaved them. And then the titans showed up who imprisoned them within the elemental planes. So there wasn't really unity amongst the elemental lords. Yeah, Fedazane was chiller, Neptulon was more fluid, Ragnaros, of course, the hothead, and Elakir was quite windy, but they didn't really work together. But then we showed up. So, at the point that we showed up, Elakir and Ragnaros have been taken care of. We did that. Yes, good job, everybody. We had Neptulon, who was originally kidnapped by Ozumat in the Cataclysm dungeon, but they rewrote that storyline. At some point, they even had funnily show him up with, like, Ozumat on a little balloon as a pet next to him. It's like he liberated himself. But that storyline they just wrote off on Twitter. They were like, oh yeah, he liberated himself. And people were like, what? Well, there's a whole storyline waiting for Neptulon to be told. They're like, nah, he liberated himself. Shut up. We were going to do a raid back then, but we're not. So he liberated himself. It's like, oh, okay. So Neptulon shows up. And then we recruit Fedazane by helping her out there. And I believe that we're talking about, like, Dragon Eggs again. Because dragons were once upon a time not going to reproduce anymore. But that was one of the more hints. That's like, oh, dragons are still out there. Then, in the case of Ragnaros, well, the Fire Lord was gone, so we needed a new Fire Lord, and we helped Smolderon get to the throne. And then there was the Wind Domain, where we helped Thunderan. And you might remember Thunderan from Thunder Fury, blah, 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 meme blade of the Ancients. So we helped those four on the throne, and then they were like, oh, Shaman, good job! The Elemental Lords are united, and we will fight together. And then there was also this storyline that never really went anywhere. It was Magalfa Grim Totem had like this doomsday device that we could wield. And then after the campaign, if I remember right, Magalfa and the device just kind of disappeared. So that's the story waiting to be told. Warlocks took over a planet. I remember Warlocks took over a demon planet, and that's about what they did. If anyone, they killed the demon. I think the Warlock or the whole campaign just kind of sizzled out. If I'm wrong, please correct me, chat. Woodiers. Oh, right. They learned about Odin. Woodiers went up into the Halls of Valor where they learned about Odin. And they proved themselves to Odin time and time again. And they learned that Helya was evil and Odin was great. And they proved themselves, blah, blah, blah. Jenna, hello there. Welcome to the stream. We're going over one of my favorite expansions, Legion storyline. We're still doing the build-up with, like, the Order Halls before we actually go into the zones. So all that. So there's that. Vanessa Van Cleef. Oh, yeah, Vanessa is alive to this day. You know. But I'm not hearing anything about the Warlocks. I'm going to assume that just kind of sizzled out. Wait, I can do streamer commands. Hell yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking for one of the cutest places to hang out, go check out Jenabane, who is doing... Well, you finished Dawn Trail for Final Fantasy the other day, so you're kind of figuring out what you're doing. So I'm guessing, is it... Are you playing the comfy games these days? What are you up to? Monks dealt with the Shah stuff. Monks dealt with the Shah stuff? Did they? And Warlocks enslaved the Editor twins. I don't know if the monks dealt with the Shah stuff. I mean, we could Google, I suppose, but it's more fun to do from the top of our heads. Then about the artifacts. Still doing variety, but I'm working on Dawn Trail raids in Final Fantasy XIV. Well, we got a lot of people that love Final Fantasy XIV here as well. And if you just want a cute, chill chat to hang out, everybody would recommend to check it out. I hang out there quite a lot. Also, I realized that your emotes... I spoke to that with a friend of mine as well. I'm like, are you all using the same emotes? What's happening here? And she was like, oh yeah, you can buy those emotes from so-and-so website. I was like, oh shit, okay. So, you know, got emotes. There's a lot of story on it, Maple. I've done a video on it. Yeah. That's well cute. So, Artifacts. Again, we're doing the build-up. So, you gotta keep in mind, we've done Legion, we've gone to the Broker Shore, everything is messed up, and now everybody's just on their own. The factions will come into play a little bit later, but we as our classes, you gotta imagine, you had a reason to play all these little alts, right? Like, you had a reason to go through these campaigns, because the rewards were there, the power was there, the story was there, followers, there was so much, missions you send out, mounts to collect, and then there were the artifacts. And artifacts was like a big deal of the Legion system, and for a lot of things, in my opinion, it was a great system, but there were also some downsides to it, especially if you were like higher end playing the game, because there was a big part of the grind, of the farm. But me, the casual that I am, I kind of loved it. And now I'm going to try and remember what the artifacts are about. Oh my god, Death Knight. The Frost Death Knight artifact was about the Shards of Frostmourne. That one is easy. We go into the Blade and we deal like some Echo of Ner'zhul and Arthas. We just take care of business. The Blood one, I remember, was like this big butcher guy that murdered people. I shouldn't even attempt this. I don't even remember. Nah, I'm just going to be reading the article. I'm just going to tell you which ones I remember. I think that's easier. Demon Hunters. Demon Hunters learned about this race that stood toe-to-toe against Sargeras, and the Sargeras was like, oh, really? You want to fight me? So they entered a war of attrition. And at some point, Sargeras kind of got impressed with how they fought, and he was like, come join my legion. And they were like, no, and then they tried to attack him. But the story, if I remember right, never specified it was the real Sargeras or like just an avatar of himself, which would not bring down a Broxigar, who is said to actually strike Sargeras himself. But either way, they were like a badass race that were doing things. Druids. Feral had the claws of insert Loa name here. A Loa that we eventually saved from the Shadowlands. A Loa that was blown up fighting the demons, which indicated that even though you die in the Fel like Varian did, it does not necessarily have to stop you from entering the Shadowlands. Guardian had to do with Ursak, if I remember right. Restoration was branch of Kahanir, the first mother tree, which we now learned was actually a gift from the goddess Elune to the titan Eonar. And it had to do with the restoration of Nordrassil, which is the tree that we blew up in Warcraft 3, which to this day we're still trying to restore. And then Balance had... Oh, not the Scepter of Sargeras, but the one that transformed him into Worgen. The Balance had the Scythe of Elune. The Scythe of Elune has a massive history in which... After the War of the Ancients, the Night Elves were trying to defend the world of Azeroth, and they realized with the Druidism, like, hey, we got this really cool pack form, but Malfurion is like, don't use the pack form. They're like, we want to use the pack form. And it's like, no, don't do it. You'll lose yourself to the beast, as I had. Like, Cenarius had to save Malfurion. But of course, his students didn't listen. They gave in to the pack form. They even went one step further, and they invoked the power of the Elune, creating the original Worgen, which then Malfurion had to put asleep in the dream, until they were summoned many years back by Gilneas, and that's how the Worgen curse came to be. Evokers weren't a thing, so that makes things easier. Okay, Marksmanship Hunter got Illyria's bow, in which we joined her sister Verisa and trying to figure out, okay, what the heck happened to Illyria? So Illyria is a hero from the Sons of Lothar days, where they went through the Dark Portal to stop the Horde once and for all. And we're talking like Warcraft 2 at this point. And for the longest time, people had no idea what happened to Illyria and Turelion. We went to Outlands, we met up with Khadgar and Kurdran and Dunoff, but no Illyria and Turelion. Where did they go? Where did they go? And for the longest time, Blizzard hinted at it. Even in Draenor, they had like this little questline. And until Legion, they wouldn't come back. In this expansion is when they returned. And with Verisa, we went out to get a bow. And we get a portion of Illyria's story, which we'll get to in a moment. Beast Mastery and Survival. One of them is... I think Survival is the one with Hall in Highmountain, which is a character that we meet in Highmountain. It's a Tauren that fought in the War of the Ancients. And their birds blessed the weapon. That means Beast Mastery is the one where you join Rexxar on the hunt, which was an awesome artifact quest. Mage. Fire was Fellow Malorn, which has a history with Kael'thas Sunstrider, if I remember right. Arcane was a talking staff, which is connected to Aegwynn the Guardian, which we got in the Nexus. For the life of me, I do not remember what Frost was. Okay. I was on a roll there. I don't know. I don't remember what Frost was. Monk. Oh, God. One of them you join Lily, and I think you enter an arena where you get like the weapons from Raden. Mistweaver, I'm pretty sure you had to go into the place where Shao once upon a time sacrificed himself, because I remember doing that on stream and everybody laughing at me that was terrible at healing. And then Brewmaster. I do not remember Brewmaster. Paladin, Retribution. On the Broken Shore, during the introductionary questline where the Alliance and Horde go in, we see Tyrion Fordring captured by the Legion. They already went in ahead of us. And Tyrion Fordring had called upon the Light's final blessing in Icecrown with Arthas. He's like, Light, give me one final blessing to shatter my bonds. And the Light wasn't kidding. The Light was like, okay, you got your final blessing, okay? So when he was taken, there was like this big-ass beast crow, Kos, or whatever he's called, blasted with Fel, and Tyrion is like, the light will protect. Ah, it burns. Oh, my skin is melting right now. But what a lot of people didn't know was that he didn't die. He still was alive in the hands of the demons, and he was tortured for quite a bit until Paladin's insert time period here, maybe a week, maybe a month. They went after him, and they were like, Tyrion is still alive. The Ashbringer is still alive. So we went in, and unfortunately, we only found him just in time to see him die. But just in time for him to pass on the Ashbringer to Retribution Paladins. Holy Paladins went into a really cool place, which is, in Tirisfal, there was always this speculation about this is the place where Keeper Tyr fell. Tyr, his fall, Tirisfal. Like, people speculate about it. There's also this event with the Fey Dragons, and people are like, oh, there's something happening here. There's like darkness in the ancient lore with the High Elves that were exiled by the Night Elves after the War of the Ancients as they traveled to Quell for Lust. They were like, oh, there's something down here. And wouldn't you know it, there is something down there. Tyr fell in that location. Tyr fell there as he took down one of the Kafraks that were sent out of Ulduar when Keeper Loken really wanted Tyr to shut up. This is ancient lore. Point being, there's a tomb there, and that is where they found the holy weapon, Tyr's hand. And the Knights of the Silver Hand actually use Tyr's silver hand as their symbol as well. There's like a whole history there. Which means that Protection did something as well. What did Protection Paladins do for their artifact? Oh my god, I should know this. This is my main. What did you do? Did you go to Odin? Did you go, where did you go for your, did you go into like a Vrykul tomb? Is that what you did? I think that's what you did. I think you picked up a Vrykul tomb. What is the weapon? The weapon is Light's Truth, ain't it? I don't know where we went. I do not know for the life of me. What I do know is that Shadow Priests, which is, we spoke about Order Halls, how some of them overlapped. They also did a really cool thing with some of the artifacts, which is they overlapped. So the Scythe of Elune was picked up in the same place where like Death Knights picked up one of theirs, which was in Karazhan, which is related to the Dark Knights, not the Death Knight, the Dark Riders, related to the Dark Riders who were related to the comics. So the Dark Riders used to be comic only. Once upon a time, we have corrupted Guardian Medivh living in the Tower of Karazhan. Have a wonderful day! La la la, my day is wonderful. And then knock somebody at his door and he's like, hello, what do you want? And they're like, hello, would you like to buy some relics? They're really powerful. And of course, Medivh was a really powerful guardian, and he had like the Titan Sargeras inside of him, was all corrupted and dark. And one look at those relics, and he was like, you're trying to swindle me, those are not real relics. But I got something better for ya. So he did bibbidi bobbidi boom, and he turned those merchants into the Dark Riders, cursed forevermore to bring powerful relics to the Tower of Karazhan, which is how these artifacts ended up in Karazhan in most cases. And I believe that they were even part of those artifact questlines back then, and even now in Season of Discovery, the Dark Riders also play a part. Anywho, back to the Shadow Priest. They would go to the same tomb as the Holy Paladins went, as the Warriors went as well. Warrior went in first, followed by Shadow Priest, followed by Holy Paladin. I'm pretty sure. Shadow Priest, they met Xal'atath for the first time. We all now know Xal'atath from the War Within. Once upon a time, Xal'atath was inside of a blade, whispering to you one of the sickest artifacts they've ever come up with. Because as you went through the expansion, Xal'atath would just drop 6 spoilers on your ass. It's like, oh, you think this empire is great. You think dragons are awesome. You should have seen it, kid, when this world was ruled by the old gods. You should have seen it. It was awesome. You would have probably been dead, but it was awesome. It's like, oh, really, Xal'atath? And it's like, So that was the Shadow Artifact. They yoink it out of that Kefrux that Tyr brought low. No, they yoink it out of that... Okay. Warrior goes in there first. They take out the weapon. Then there's still the corpse that remains there. Then the Shadow Priest goes in. As there's like the Twilight Father or whatever he calls himself, who's wielding Zolotov. And Zolotov is like, you're not worthy. But look over there. That's my newest, bestest buddy. So we take the weapon and then we suck up the Kefrux into Zolotov, which I'm sure we'll have no problems with in the future at all. And then Paladins rolled up and they were like, oh, this is a nice hammer. And then the whole tomb started to fall down. And like the Shadow Elemental showed up and he's like, you'll never escape. And he was right. But we got a sexy artifact out of it. Which means that I need to know what Discipline and Holy Priest did. Do you remember what artifacts they had? Tur, I think. So that's probably indicating a Naru, ain't it? So if it's a Naru, they probably did something with the Draenei. For the life of me, I don't remember what those two artifacts were about. Do you remember Rogue? Oh god, I don't. You have Subtlety, Outlaw, and Assassination. What did the Rogues do? Think. Well, one of them fought a pirate. I'm pretty sure they took his pirate weapons. Do you remember the other ones? No, not really. Was there a stealth mission? I remember going to Ravenhold, but I think that was just with Tess Greymane as part of the Order Hall campaign. How do you not remember these weapons? It's been too long. Shamans. Do you remember Shamans? Well, yeah. Enhancement Shaman is easy. Enhancement Shaman got the Doomhammer. So Fro had to take care of Garrosh, right? And alternate Draenor. And at that moment, Fro was sad. Womp womp. Sorry. So, wielding the elements as a shaman is an emotional business. And if you're out of balance, things go wrong. In this case, the turmoil that Thrall had inside of him messed up his connection to the elements, messed up what he did with Doomhammer, which is why he was crawling on the ground of the broken shore, which is why the Doomhammer fell into the Maelstrom when they tried to defend it against the Legion attack, and we had to pick up the Doomhammer and take care of business. So the moment we picked up the Doomhammer, Thrall was like, oh my god, you already wielded better than I ever could. You are the new bestie. It's like, awesome, thanks, Thrall. So while Thrall was going to go and spend time with his family, and you might think, oh, is it time to retire, Thrall? Ha, don't make me laugh. We're never going to let that orc go. 50 more expansions. He's like Wolverine. We got the wield to Doomhammer, which was awesome. Restoration got a staff connected to Azhara underwater. That's about all I remember. And what did Elemental do then? What does Elemental use for a weapon? Did Elemental... I mean, you gave the gloves of Keeper Tyr. Oh yeah, didn't Elemental get like the shield of Keeper Ra? I think Elemental got the shield of Keeper Ra. I think. Maybe. So then Warlocks. One of them got the Scepter of Sargeras, which was awesome. Because we double betrayed Gul'dan. For some reason, Gul'dan thought that the Warlocks of this world would follow his lead. And so... we went through this quest. I think we went to like Tol Barad, and we got like the Scepter of Sargeras. And this has like the power to destroy worlds and universes and portals and shit. That was in the hands of the Warlocks. Like these artifacts, if you start thinking about the power levels that players actually got, it was madness. It was insane, but it was awesome. Then Demonology... I think they got the Skull of the Manary, which was a storyline connected to betraying Archimonde back on Draenor. And that skull also talks to you. It floats around. It's kind of cool. And then there's Affliction. I think you got a staff from Karazhan with somebody who was able to give the plague, but I'm not exactly sure. Then for the Warrior. Okay, so Arms Warrior is easy. They're the ones who went into... Oh, I remember actually. Arms Warrior went into that tomb from Keeper Tyr, and they followed the spirit of Thoradin of Arator, and that one is actually related to the current expansion, as Thoradin of Arator was the founder of the Arator Empire, the Arathi Empire. So Farron Lothar and going to that Arathi Empire is connected to that. And Thoradin of Arator lost his life fighting against that Kefrux. Which is why, as the Kefrux is now stirring, he did like a death blow, but it didn't finish the job. So warriors are asked, like, hey, go in there and finish the job. So the warriors finish the Kefrux, the Shadow Priest absorb the Kefrux, and then Paladins get the Hand of the Silver. Fury Warriors went into Helheim, where they took weapons from Helya. I remember that much. And Helya was like, you're not allowed to get those. And they were like, yeah, we're going to take those. And then Protection Warriors. God, what did you get? In my mind, you fought against the Vrykul, who was like, I'm going to test you now. And then he tested us, and we proved worthy. That's what I think about the Warrior Protection one. How am I doing, chat? How am I doing? Let me just scroll up, because you were all hidden for a while. Ashemain was the name of the Loa for the druids. Fangs of Ashemain. Tasdora for the weapon. The beast one was the gun from Ulduar with a special dog. You are correct. Halfyy. How did I forget Halfyy? Yep, you're correct. That was Beastmaster. Yeah. Ebonchill is very forgettable. That was the Mage Frost artifact. Fuzan, the Wanderer's companion, is the Brewmaster. The fuck? I remember the mount that talks to you. I do not remember Fuzan. Oathkeeper. Truthguard. Yeah. Holy has the Naru staff for Tur. Blades of the Fallen King. Garona's daggers. Oh, how could I forget? Join Garona in that Stormwind scenario. Where she gives the weapons up. Yeah. Discipline got a stuff from the Artifact Vault. Hellhound Fang Daggers. Shasdral Scepter of the Tides was Azora. Fangs of the Devourer. Fist of Raden. Skull of the Manari. Yeah. Scale of the Earthwarder. Right, okay. Why no extra scenarios? I know, right? Howdy, Sarah. Thank you much for the 11, love. Okay. Fuzan doesn't talk to you, but the Monkey King who gives it to you. For the life of me, I do not remember that one. In my defense, it's been 9 years. I'm actually kind of proud how well I did with remembering these artifacts. This is actually kind of sick. But as chat mentions, again, we're still not into the whole intro stuff for... Now, in the case of the Order Halls, they were a thing that you did throughout the launch of the initial patch, right? And you send out your followers and your missions and you go through your quests. It wasn't done in one day. It was a bit time-gated, but it was there. Your artifacts you most definitely were able to get at the beginning. Then eventually they also added class mounts. Class mounts. Death Knights go into Northrend following a vision from Bolvar where they were like, oh yeah, there's still like this dragon. And Death Knights had this really cool scenario where they went into the breeding grounds for the dragons and they got the option if they wanted to slay everyone inside. And if they did, they got a meta achievement. And then the community started to moan and bitch about it because some of them were like, I didn't know about the achievement and now I can't get it anymore. And I was like, yeah, that's fair. But still, now they're going to take it away. But that choice is really cool because I'm pretty sure Alexstrasza in a later quest is like, I know what you've done, Death Knight. And I really like that recognition. I really like that connection. Demon Hunters, I don't really remember. Druid Mounts. Don't remember. Hunter Mounts. God. Alright, try to think. I don't remember. Mage Mounts. Mage was the... Mage was the sewer lid from Dalaran. Mage... Mage was the disc. Invented by either Khadgar or Caligos. We helped him fix it. Monk is the talking mount that won't shut the fuck up. Paladin mount was the disappointing another horse. But at least the Paladins also got a secret artifact quest line where they got a skin. And this one related. So back in Classic, there were rumors and speculation going around about can you get the Ashbringer. And what they did was they incorporated those rumors into that secret Paladin skin, which then connected and tied back to the Death Knight Order Hall campaign. Basically, the Paladins rolled up to the Death Knights and they were like, you owe us. You tried to steal Tyrion's body. And the Death Knights helped them get that sick skin. And then everything was okay. Rogues got a Raven somehow. I'm pretty sure Shamans got like an Elemental Tornado. Warlocks. Probably a Demon Beasts. Warriors. I want to say Warriors got a Vrykul to ride on, but that would be way too sick. So I don't remember. Nah. And then there's follower quest lines. Each of the classes also had like different followers that would join them. For example, Priest would bring in... Oh, she is the founder of the Cult of Forgotten Shadows. Her name is blah 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 of the blah blah blah. You know, blah 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 of the blah blah blah, who was thought to believe dead, but actually her spirit was in the void. Celine? Maybe Celine. And they brought her back. Or, trying to remember if there was another cool one. It was like, oh, yeah, that really stands out. Paladins saw, like, the edition of Night Elf Paladins. Shamans, as I mentioned, they have McGawful. That's some cool shit in there. Natalie Celine, thank you. That was her name. Hey, good job. Mutate into long owls. Oh, right. Yeah. The fishing rod. Oh, the Murloc fishing rod. I still use that one to this day. Yeah, that was an awesome one. It's a side one as well. You didn't even have to do it. God, Legion had a lot. Legion had so much. So, I really need to get flying into the zones. One of the things, like, I'm praising Legion a lot, but Legion was by no means perfect. And one of the major flaws that it had was that it had a legendary system. And on its own, the legendaries were not the end of the world. Like, they were still being balanced as they were in the game. That was kind of shit. So some streamers, I won't name any names, they would, for example, really funnily delete a legendary on stream because it was shit at the moment. And then Blizzard would post an update, and now the legendary was actually one of the top tier ones to use. So that was kind of funny. But the problem with the legendaries was that they dropped randomly. And on paper, that sounds a lot of fun. Whatever you do in the game, you have a chance to get a random legendary. That's awesome. But not when the legendaries can dictate if your class is functional or not. Not when there are competitive gamers out there who will do anything for the numbers. And because they didn't get a certain random legendary to drop before the raid time, they are now benched. And the solution was simple. The solution is something that Blizzard added, but only at the end of the expansion, or when it was already, the damage was already done, which is the vendor. I don't know if you, like, got currency. I think you got currency. They just added currency with whatever you do in the game, so that even if you don't get the legendary that you're looking for, you could just buy them from a vendor. And that was just had to be done at the beginning. If they'd just done it at the beginning, it would have not been a problem. Yeah. So, to go back to the Legion zones, design-wise, in the past, what they would do is mainly sends you through the same zones as everybody else. I remember during the Cataclysm, they would give you like 2 starting zones because they were smart enough to realize that if they dump everybody into the same zone, things are going to go dicey. This was before, the whole phasing thing that they're running on now. So before, in example for the Cataclysm, you would be able to start your leveling in either Mount Hyjal or Vashj'ir, right? In Warlords, the Alliance and the Horde got separated, but your leveling experience was the same. You would go through, on the Alliance side, like Shadowmoon Valley, into Talador, into Spires, into the Grand. I think I forget one in there. Not Blade's Gorgrond in there. And then the Horde vice versa. But what they've done with Legion was something new, something added, which is you can choose where you wanted to level. The choice was yours. Did you want to level in Azshara, in Val'sharah, in Highmountain, or in Stormheim? Your choice. Where do you want to begin? And this was really cool, in my opinion. It was a really cool option. But, and I don't know if they ever confirmed this in later interviews, but you could definitely tell that there was a storyline in mind when they designed these zones. There was a order to go through. For the life of me, do I remember what the order was? Oh, God. Do I remember the order? Azsuna came before Stormheim. I remember that much. And then I'm trying to think. Highmountain or Val'sharah? Is there one over the other? Ooh, I don't want to say. Either way, I'm pretty sure there was a... And the reason why there was somewhat of an order is because in Azsuna, there was information related to the factions. So in Azsuna... there was a note that you could find in which it spoke about Sylvanas going for the power of the Valkyr, and that was the storyline that played out in Stormheim. And this information was also brought to like your leaders, and they were like, "Okay, keep this hush hush, right? Like we don't want the other faction to know this." Highmountain was first. Could be. I'm trying to remember. So here we are. Gul'dan has been teleported to the Broken Shore. It is going to stand in the defense of the worlds. Alliance and Horde tried to work together. Something that Miss Jaina Proudmoore could not stomach. As you might recall, she was betrayed at Fedamore and then betrayed with the Divine Bell. She was not down with letting the Horde back into the city. So Gul'dan and the Kirin Tor and mainly Khadgar was like, well, if you're not going to let them back in, you know, maybe there's a change of leadership necessary. And Jaina was like, all right, peace. I'm out. Now, she didn't stop fighting the Legion, mind you. She kept on going. Just not with Gul'dan. This, by the way, Suramar. During beta times, we saw this massive city be developed and grown. Back then, we were like, oh, this is such a cool new capital. I wonder what they're going to do with it. There's so much in there. And for Legion, you definitely spent a lot of time in there. But I feel like we left this beautiful city behind far too quick. I kind of felt like Gul'dan should at some point just made a base out of Suramar and just hang out in there, but you know. Let me go up there. I'm trying to get into Highmountain first then. And see what we can talk about. Inside were the French elves. Oui, oui. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Something's not quite right. An illusion? What are you hiding? Oui, oui. You were an alcoholic at the time. Burned myself out getting and leveling all the artifact weapons. Okay, leveling all the artifact weapons, no fucking way. Getting all of them? Yes. Yes, and more yes. Now, in my case, obviously, I also did it for the whole YouTube thing. I do remember Legion was where I felt the most strained. In every single... like, the amount of work that we put out in Legion was insane. Fun, though. Oh, I do it all over again in a heartbeat, 100%. So, with the zones, we also saw comics on the outside. And they were talking about Highmountain. And what we needed to do, like, we haven't even spoken about it. So we have the Broken Shore, where our mission was failed. Varian is dead. Vol'din is dead. Sylvanas is war chief. Enduin is now leader. What do we do? The biggest Legion invasion, what do we do? Well, the classes rise up. They do the order halls. Khadgar and the Kirin Tor are going to be the focal points. What can we possibly do to stop the Legion from coming in? Well, how about we put a big old stopper on the big-ass portal that was created. And if I remember right, it was Magni Bronzebeard who helped out with, like, pointing us in the right direction. And eventually we figured out that it was something called the Titans' Pillars of Creation. When the Titans were bringing order to Azeroth, they had left behind these Pillars of Creation, which they had used to bring order and to do the whole thing. And with those pillars, if we brought those to the Tomb of Sargeras, bada bing, bada boom, we can seal off that gateway. We can stop them from coming in. All right? Awesome. So... We did just that, and in Highmountain, there was the Hammer of Kaskarov. The hammer, at some point, was used by Hall on Highmountain, that same Tauren that fought in the War of the Ancients, in order to banish Deathwing, the Black Dragon aspect, from their lands into Deepholm, the elemental plane of Earth. He couldn't kill him, but he used the hammer to banish Deathwing out of there. At the same time, they also found Black Dragon Eggs. And those Black Dragon Eggs, something quite miraculous happened with them. You might recall how in the Cataclysm, we went through this whole quest line of bringing together Titan technology and whelp corpses and experiments and blah, blah, blah. And we had created the first uncorrupted Black Dragon in millennia. They called him Rephion, the Black Prince. Well, turns out Rephion wasn't even the first. He's not a prince. He's not the first. It was actually Ebonhorn. But yeah, we didn't know that at the time, because Ebonhorn was chilling in Highmountain. But Ebonhorn was uncorrupted by the use of the Hammer of Kaskarov. And from that point on, this Black Dragon would stand with the leaders of Highmountain. Hal's descendants. Advise them in a leadership role. You know, keep them on the right path. And by the time that the Legion shows up, I think it was called Dargul. Let me check out, because we can check it out in the dungeon. Dargul the Underking. He is like, you know what? If you give that hammer to me, I'll rule Highmountain. Just give the hammer to me. And then he took the hammer. And he was like, all right, so long, suckers. You're all my enemies now. Because there was another clan amongst the Tauren who betrayed them. They were the more hostile, aggressive ones. Here's the Hunter Order Hall, by the way. So now Highmountain was in despair. They were a little bit shattered. The unity was gone. Like, who could you trust? And then the heroes showed up. What up, everybody? It is the heroes of the Alliance and the Horde. Yo, we've come to party. And we met with Mela Highmountain. And together with Mela, we went around. And we brought, like, the water healer, food people in. We brought the... oh, God. What are they called? Come on, brain. They're the stone people. They live underground. They're not called Dargrul. They're called... not Stonebrul. Chat, help me out here. We brought the stone people in. Because not everybody allied with Dargrul. And they didn't all want to follow his path. Liftbrul. Yes, they're not called the Sniffen. They're called the... God. See, that's what you get. We only get a roll like one expansion and it just kind of showed up in the background. Drusbar. Drusbar? What? Where's the Drusbar from Battle for Azeroth? Fucking hell. Hang on. To the Google. Where are you called Drusbar? Drusbar. Drogbar. Yes. My pleasure, Hoa. My absolute pleasure. Drogbar. That's what they were called. The stone people. The Drogbar. Obviously. So we pulled in the Drogbar. Hello. The Blood Totem are the aggressive ones, so they went away. But we brought together all the other clans, and together we were Highmountain. Together we stood up against Dargrul. And at some point during the beta times, our Varian would actually have joined us during this questline. He would have learned about Ebonhorn and would have gone through it. And he would also explain what the heck he tried to do with Garrosh. But that beta questline was removed, and instead we got Bran Bronzebeard. No, instead we got Bane Bloodhoof. And Varian was replaced, gone, out of here. So that was a thing. But eventually we unite Highmountain, Mela as leadership. And we saved the day. We got our hands on the Hammer of Kaskarov. And we made some powerful friends. Also Marcus. Hi, Marcus. Well, that was certainly unexpected. So that's the model of Marcus that they added into the game. As he just had a lovely threesome in the steamy romance novel called Got Milk. And yes, we have also done animation for this one, for part 2. And I think we also done part 3. But that's the model that Kalis once upon a time imagined as in this is what Marcus looks like. Taken up by the developers and added to the game. And forever proud. Forever proud for that to be added. You can pick up a little steamy jewelry box with a necklace next to it. Hello.
Well met.
Codpiece should be larger. Uh-huh. So I'm trying to think, like, for major side quests. True Shot Lodge is the Hunter Order Hall campaign. Oh, how could we forget? There was a Murloc added to Heroes of the Storm called Murky. Murky has a questline in WoW in here where you summon like a Murloc army, which is kind of cute. We also would learn eventually that there's a reason why Ebonhorn always stayed in Highmountain. Like, they're protected from the void around here. And there's a side quest in which we got one of the first hints that there's actually a reason as to why the kobolds keep candles on their heads. So you might remember the meme, like, you know, take candle from the kobolds in the mines. It's like, oh, I just want to steal your candle. What's the issue? But there is an issue, because in the darkness, like, creatures of the void come forward. So there's a rare spawn you could pull in here if you take out all the candles. Which is a storyline, funny enough, that actually flows further into the War Within, where in the dungeon, there is the Creeping Darkness as a boss now. So they're taking it way further. But herein, we got, like, one of the founding bits and pieces of it. It's kind of cool. So I'm guessing after this, we'll pop over into Val'sharah. Trying to see if we can find Murky. Flotsam is a rare. I think it was in a cave somewhere. It doesn't matter, I suppose. But yeah, you join Murky and make it like an army. And I think there was like a nightmare scenario in which these Murlocs rose up against us instead of standing with us. But I might be talking out of my ass right now. We killed the darkness a few times. More just as entity or just immortal. The darkness in the dungeon runs away like half HP. Because as they explain, you can't kill the darkness. Like, the darkness is just that. It is the darkness. I think it's a metaphorical personification of what the kobolds are fear of. Not so much like, okay, this is the entity that keeps the candles going. I think it's more the idea of, in the darkness, there is this kind of darkness. Now, is it related to the void? Is it just the darkness? That is a bit trickier to say. Right. Okay. Yeah. Alright. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, PvP, right? After the broken shore, you can imagine that, again, Greymane was not too happy with Sylvanas and the Horde. In his eyes, they had betrayed the Alliance again. He had already lost his son, and already lost Gilneas, and already lost so much to the Banshee Queen. And now they'd lost Varian, now they'd lost the King. You know, they're not exactly happy with them. So, the first moment they got the strike, they did. And they struck out at the Horde. There's been a bit of a discussion, like, how dare the Alliance attack them here? But at the same time, we also find out that the Horde is shipping in Plague. So, it's not like, you know, the Horde is being super duper environmental friendly and whatnot. It's not like the Horde is coming in on peace mission either. The Horde's got some plans with the Banshee Queen. Here we go. I'm thinking of the wrong zone. Here we also got, like, Feltarn going on. Apex, you're far too kind. I'm trying to think that they actually... Didn't they... Am I thinking about the wrong coastline? Tatoa, hello there. Thank you much for the 3 months. Does the Alliance know that before attacking? No, not as far as I remember. But then again, that comes back into play of the idea of which zone comes first. So, in Azuna, the Alliance, if the node is found by the Alliance, I don't know if they've ever confirmed the Chronicles which way it goes. Either way, in Azuna, they find out that Sylvanas is after the power of the Valkyr. That might have been an indication for them to attack. But at the same time, this is also part of, you know, they got betrayed on the Broken Shore. Now, I personally find it a little bit ridiculous to see one faction pulling back and not wanting to be wiped out as a betrayal. But that's more in line with, why didn't you come up with a backup plan? Why didn't you come up with a signal and just tell each other, like, okay, if we get overwhelmed, we're going to retreat, right? But that's the artificial conflict created on the Broken Shore. And unfortunately, there is that little part where it's like, you know, why didn't that happen? Because it's an easy, fair question to ask, right? But either way, towards the Alliance, hello there, Buxney. They still feel betrayed. So when they see the Horde, they see the enemy, right? And why didn't they send diplomats after the fact? Because on the Horde side, they were dealing with Legion invasion, Vol'jin just dead, Sylvanas in charge, and who can you trust, right? Like, would the Alliance be able to listen? This is also something, which is, we're doing ads, by the way, so if you can't hear me anymore, I'm very sorry about that. But this is something that they used in Battle for Azeroth as well to motivate the war, which is like, yeah, okay, maybe we can talk peace with Enduin, but what about the others? And they're right. Like, Jaina Proudmoore was very much like, we need to wipe them out right now. You can't let the death of your father go unanswered. So it was not unreasonable to think for the Horde, like, any emissary that we send will just instantly be wiped out. Of course, there's also the demon influence, right? Like, getting an emissary through Legion ranks. Good luck with that. And on the Alliance side, no emissaries because they felt betrayed, as well as would they be willing to listen? I don't know. What I do know is that the Alliance saw the Horde fleet, their first opportunity to strike. They strike out at Navanos. I'm just trying to remember if it was on this coast or not, because otherwise we're talking about something that's only in Azuna. But as it turns out, you know, Navanos is definitely there with a mission for the Banshee Queen. They're also bringing in the Plague. I think it was Stormheim, actually. We'll get to that. In Val'sharah, as we're gonna wait for a minute and a half for the ads to be over. Sorry about that, team. Where we're in Val'sharah, the second zone to your picking. In Val'sharah, we've got Malfurion Stormrage leading the way with a wonderful speech where it goes like, "Oh, Val'sharah, merely an echo. But it's the closest thing we got to the dream. Oh, I love it here." The Emerald Dream is a mythical realm potentially formed by the Titans, potentially was always there, potentially is the domain of life, and then the thing that we call the Emerald Dream is the thing that was formed by the Titans. It's still a little bit up in the air. We're going to find out about it in the future. Either way, the Emerald Dream is very much connected to Druidism. It's where they'll spend a lot of time slumbering and then taking care of the land. And the terraforming that they do in the Emerald Dream will have its effects on Azeroth as well. Once upon a time, it was called like the blueprint of Azeroth, but the Emerald Dream has been malformed and changed, and its definition has been altered quite a bit. Mainly to the point what's happening here is that we see the influences. Matt, hello there. The influences of the Emerald Nightmare. The Emerald Nightmare is... Well, once upon a time, we had a druid called Fendrel Stackhelm. And Fendrel Stackhelm really liked to plant little trees on the world of Azeroth. Even though he was told not to, he just could not stop himself. He loved little trees everywhere. Little trees, little happy accidents. So at some point in Northrend, they saw like Serenite pop out and corruption and whatnot. And Falstad was like, no, Stackhelm was like, you know what? I got the solution. You know what we should do? And Malfurion was like, don't say it. And he was like, I'm going to say it. Malfurion was like, don't say it. Plant a little world tree! Which they did. Even though he was told not to, they still did. And though that tree, its roots, it got so deep that it touched Yogg-Saron's subterranean prison. Yogg-Saron is an old god, and Yogg-Saron was like, ooh, visitors. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to place some seeds in the Emerald Dream. And those seeds would eventually become something called the Emerald Nightmare. The Emerald Nightmare is basically the corruption of the dream. When you have a dream, it's a bad dream. It's the Emerald Nightmare, right? Now, during the War of the Ancients, 10,000 years ago, the Night Elves got into contact with Sargeras, and they tried to summon in the Burning Legion. But there was one who was first. He was called Xavius, advisor to Queen Azshara herself, and he was the first who heard Sargeras' voice. And he was like, McQueen, look what we found! And he showed her the portal. Like, look! We could bring in destruction, my queen! Did I do good? She's like, you did good, my little puppy. And so they did, and they tried to bring Sargeras into the world, but Malfurion, with a little bit of Emerald Dream trickery, sealed off the portal, and then he fought against Xavius, and he summoned lightning, and he fucking killed him! But he killed him next to that portal. And so Xavius' spirit was yoinked by Sargeras, who looked at it. This place is fraught. Who looked at it, and he was like, Oh, you failed me, but I still see things that please me. Oh, yes. So he pulled him apart, and he tortured him for a little bit, and then he put him back together, and he tortured him a little bit. And at some point, he turned Xavius into what we call the Satyr. Correct, Hoa. Correct, yes. Yogg-Saron laid the foundation, and then N'Zoth took over with the dream. Yes, with the nightmare. So Sargeras turned Xavius into the first of the Satyr, and those Satyrs are the ones that the Druids fought against when they did the whole Worgen thing, right? And as the first of the Satyr, Xavius did his war thing again, but now he got a little bit of a hate boner towards Malfurion. You know, somebody killing you with lightning is not something you take lightly, you know? It's like, I kind of want to kill that Storm Rage now. And he decided, the foolish man, he decided to kidnap Tyrande Whisperwind. And if there's one thing you don't do, is you don't mess with Malfurion's woman. His twin brother, that's fine, but not his woman. So, we got Chandris, who's shooting like her little bow and arrow, and hits Xavius, but it was already too late. Like, Tyrande was pulled through a portal into the palace. And Malfurion, the fucking badass that he is. And I know, if you only know Malfurion from the game, you're like, what the fuck are you talking about, Malfurion the badass? But Druidism in the lore is sick. And they fail to bring it into the story every single time. But in this moment, he takes, like, the wood from the arrow, and he makes it spread across Xavius' body until Xavius was turned into a tree. That's right. Druids can turn you into a living tree. Have fun in the battlegrounds, everybody. And that little tree was planted on Azeroth. And so when the war was over and the land split apart and all the good stuff, Xavius felt the destruction of Azeroth, which was awful. But luckily for him, he got into contact with the old god N'Zoth, and bibbidi bobbidi boo, Emerald Dream stuff happened, and he became the Lord of the Nightmare. He became the ruler of the Emerald Nightmare, spreading his corruption, eventually getting his hands on Malfurion's dream form, because that same Steghelm, who was planting little happy trees everywhere, also lost his son in something called the War of the Shifting Sands. This was a war that took place in Silithus. This was not against the old god Yogg-Saron, this was against C'Thun. And in that war, Steghelm lost his son, which broke his heart. And that's something that the Nightmare that the old gods could use, as they like showed up his image of his son, and he was, Dad, what if we take this Teldrassil that you have, this world tree, and we corrupt it, right? It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. So the corruption of the Nightmare spread even further through Steghelm. And then Malfurion got trapped into the Nightmare. And you might wonder, why don't you just wake him up? Well, dear player, that's your fault. If you played in Classic, then it's your fault. Because you were doing quests for Steghelm, in which he asked you to bring him Morrograin, which he used to keep Malfurion in his coma. And now it was Malfurion who was slowly turning into a tree in the dream. But don't worry, there's a lot of factors at play that we're not going to dive into. It has to do with Fura and the extra scenarios and all the good stuff. We need to do the story of Malfurion at some point. Point being, Malfurion is able to liberate himself. He brings together like a dream army, which is like Varian and Bane and everybody fighting together. They're able to push back the Nightmare. They're able to, like, again, Druidism is so fucking sick. And don't get me started when Malfurion and Tyrande start working together. Druidism with Elune, like, Tyrande was like a stabilizing factor. Tyrande allowed him to turn someone into a tree, or allowed him to summon such a massive storm that it pushed back the ranks of the Legion. Tyrande, holding his hand, gave him such uwu powers that he just started to take names everywhere. It was awesome. I would highly recommend to check out the books. Point being, they were able to push back the Emerald Nightmare, but not entirely. They were able to push it back to something called the Rift of Aln, which is like a place in the Emerald Dream. And at that point in the book, they were like, okay, we've done what we could. We can't push it any further. Like, this corruption rooted in the old gods. This is a battle we'll have to fight one day, but that day is not today. Let's go home. Let's get married. Let's fucking, let's go celebrate life. It's going to be awesome. Then Legion rolls around, and wouldn't you know it, it is time to fight the Nightmare. And basically the same story that played out in the books plays out again. Xavius gets his hands on Malfurion. Tyrande tries to save him. Ysera tries to save him. We need to go in there. Cenarius is taken in first, and it's Cenarius' corruption that pushes Malfurion into a rage and tries to track him down, and he runs into Xavius' traps. Xavius takes Malfurion again, because Xavius not entirely gone, right? He's still Lord of Nightmare. Ysera also tries to save Malfurion. Ysera is the Green Dragon aspect, and as the Green Dragon aspect, her domain was the Emerald Dream. But with the corrupted tear of Elune, one of the pillars of creation that we needed, Elune, a Titan, bum bum bum. Don't get me started. They shut it out, and they corrupted Ysera. So did Xavius work with the Legionnaires? A really good question, Val'sharah. And I remember asking that question during Legion itself. I think they were just making use of the opportunity. I don't think they were in direct contact with the Legion, but they might be due to the whole Satyr thing. I don't know if they ever fully confirmed that. Howdy, Sylvie. But either way, Ysera sacrificed herself, gets corrupted, and then we have one of the most beautiful cutscenes that was ever shown. I don't know if we can see it again. Nah, it's because we're not on that character. I don't know why I'm allowed to see these cutscenes then, but, we'll pull up the YouTube. Hang on, we'll pull up the YouTube. We got this. We got one of the more beautiful cutscenes. So at this point, Ysera has sacrificed herself in order to save Malfurion, or she tried to save Malfurion. Not everything goes according to plan. That's how things work out. And Xavius puts Tyrande between a choice. Like, either you can go and save your beloved Temple of Elune and take care of Ysera, or you can go save Malfurion. And of course, she made the sacrificial play. We would go save Malfurion later. But that did mean we had to bring down Ysera. Tyrande, my love, where are you? Yeah, apparently there was... No, 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 no. We are not gonna be bringing in the Shadowlands, right? We're contained to Legion only. And in Legion only, that moment is absolutely beautiful and gorgeous and so well done. And as Ysera's spirit is lifted up amongst the stars, she leaves behind a cleansed tear of Elune, which is what allowed us, again, to save the day. And that is primarily the story that happens here. There's also the part about Blackroot Hold. This is in connection to that story with Jared and Maiev that I mentioned. So Jared apologizing to Maiev like I misunderstood my sister. Blackroot Hold connects to the War of the Ancients as well. And there was this quest line going on, which was a little bit weird. So the Demon Hunters, the players, right? They wanted to bring back Lord Illidan. And we needed Lord Illidan back because, you know, we needed the most powerful Demon Hunter in existence to help with us against the Burning Legion. But Gul'dan was also after Illidan. So he found Illidan's body first, and he took it with. And then we got, like, Illidan's soul at some point with, like, the whole Lightheart quest line. But Illidan wanted to do something to... Gul'dan wanted to do something to Illidan's body. No, not like that. He wanted to, I'm guessing, put like an avatar Sargeras in there. But I don't think that questline ever went anywhere. Now, obviously, we also stopped it, but it was a little bit weird. Like, you want Illidan to contain Sargeras? Like, what? Okay, cool. So there was that happening as well. Like, they were going for his body. We cleansed out Blackroot Hold of the Dreadlord infection, so we took care of that. That's basically Val'sharah, like I mentioned. The Dream Grove, so the Druid Order Hall is here. The part where they were like, okay, you're falling asleep, you need to go back. Druids can go in there. Another part that was really cool is that the Druids have like this Dreamway teleportation ability. So there were always these portals from the Emerald Dream across Azeroth, and now Druids can actually access those and use them to travel across the world. The Dream, by the way, the Dream Grove, this tree, the Emerald Nightmare, that was our first raid, if I remember right. So we went in, we saved Cenarius, we took care of the Nightmare this time. Apologies. And this time we actually fully cleansed it. Well, we saved fully in Battle for Azeroth. There was a teeny tiny little bit left. We took care of the majority of it. Up to the point where Xal'atath is like, oh my god, the prison is weakening, we gotta hurry. Again, Xal'atath dropped some really sick lines during the entire expansion. It was one of my favorite artifacts. Then we have Azuna. Azuna, once upon a time, dared to stand against Queen Azshara herself, to which she cursed the lands, and I'm pretty sure she drowned it. There was a Prince Ferondis, there he is. His people don't like him, but turns out he wasn't a bad guy. It was just the guy who dared to stand against Azshara, so, you know, kind of cursing the rest of his people, which kind of sucked. So we interacted with them. We also ended up in one of the most fun questing areas that I've experienced in WoW, which is Narfales Academy, which was just full of wizardry references and cute little puzzles and whatnot. Just really cute to go in there. There's also the dragon flights. So these days, you're like, you know what dragons are really good at? Making more dragons. But once upon a time, dragons were really bad at making more dragons, because Blizzard had decided so. Blizzard had decided that after the Cataclysm, the dragons were done. They had fulfilled their purpose. And I think I spoke about this during the Cataclysm video as well. But in essence, they wrote themselves in a bit of a loop. So Deathwing was created with a purpose, but he was created with a purpose in order to stop Deathwing. Like, what are you talking about? But either way, neither here nor there. What they also did, a decision, was that dragons could no longer reproduce. Which I thought was a bit of a, you know, in bird culture, that's a bit of a, it's a bit evil. Imagine as the Titans, you create the red dragonflight, the queen of life itself. And then once her job is done, you take away her ability to give life. That seems a bit mean, even to Titan standards. You know what I mean? So at some point, there was Jesse Cox and Crendor who had an interview with Ian Hazzakostas. And they asked him, If you don't know, Jesse, I don't know if he still is, but he used to be really into lore. I think he still is. He asked them, like, what is up with the dragons? And they were like, yeah, you know, we never intended to close the door on dragons that hard. So it's going to require some fixing, but we're gonna see what we can do. And I think before this, we had Dawn of the Aspects, where they already gave the idea of they can do it again. Either way, here we definitely got the confirmation. But here we have like a blue dragonflight that's hanging out, that is having children. There's also the dragons that I mentioned during the Doomhammer artifact quest line. So that played out. So dragons can just reproduce again. There's like Twilight dragons, Infinite dragons. There have been Void dragons in Battle for Azeroth. And of course, there's been the Dragon Isles. They have most definitely retconned, if not reversed the decision. Like, you know what, dragons, it's not going to go extinct. Quite the opposite. And that is a whole different discussion that we'll probably go into if we're ever going to take Zovaal through the Dragonflight expansion, which is, you know, they kind of reversed the clock on the dragon aspects entirely. Now they're just the aspects again. Like, what was their whole sacrifice for? But that's a discussion for later. In this moment, in this Azuna, those were the primary quest lines. So we teamed up with Verandis, we found out about his curse. We went after the Tidestone of Golganeth. And what was really nice of the Naga and Azora is that they fixed the Tidestone for us. They brought it into the dungeon, they empowered it, they fixed it, and then we took it out. And I always wondered, like, was that like a bigger plan for the Naga? Like, are they going to betray us? Are they going to, you know, turn this to their advantage? And they did. Blizzard never made a big deal out of it, but I thought it was kind of clever. Because the Naga, after all was said and done, we left the Pillars of Creation at the Tomb of Sargeras, where the Naga, they just walked in and they took it. They took the Tidestone. So, yeah, there's that. In this area is one of the more shadier quest lines for the Alliance, if I remember right. Because you got a choice if you wanted to keep the Horde members alive or not, I think. Because here we see a little bit of the faction war. The Alliance and the Horde, right? And this is where you find the notes which details Sylvanas' plans in Stormheim. And when I say details really vaguely, there were a couple of sentences out there. But, all, you know, safe to say, Sylvanas wanted the power of the Valkyr / to create more Valkyr. And again, we're going to contain it to the Legion bubble. At this point in time, Sylvanas had thrown herself off the top of Icecrown after Wrath of the Lich King. And she ended up in Hell, or Warcraft's version of it, where she was tortured for a while. And she made a bargain with the Valkyr, the 9. They would take her place in Hell. Whenever she died in the future, they would take her place in Hell. And that would, they would even allow her to create more Forsaken. And that way, she would be able to push on. She would be able to keep on going as the Banshee Queen. Her whole thing became staying out of Hell. That was her motivation. Because what do you do with the Banshee Queen after taking care of Arf the Lich King? Well, you give her a reason not to ever want to die. Was it perfect? No. But was it better than what they got later? Yeah. What was in it for the Valkyrie with that deal? And that is exactly the speculation that was hanging around at Harry at the time. I believe the motivation they gave is that by going with Sylvanas, they were let go from Bolvar's control. But there was definitely the speculation like, okay, what else is in there? Because chilling in Hell for such a long time, just for the Banshee Queen. Like, do they like her a lot? Like, what's happening here? And there was room to fill that in, which they never did, unfortunately. So as it stands right now, they did it because of Jailer. That's why they did it. But obviously, being Sylvanas, like she gives a whole speech as they go in here where she explains that the Forsaken, they can't have babies. So what should the Forsaken do? Die out? To which, now I don't want to upset any Forsaken out there. Maybe you should. Like, you got your vengeance upon Arthas. What reason do you have to go on as a zombie? Why would you want to go on? Is it... Like, I get it, Sylvanas, you ended up in Hell. But it doesn't mean all the Forsaken end up in Hell, right? Like, maybe some souls just want to go. And this is a topic that they also used in the lore going further. As the Forsaken, they're falling apart. They're hurting. There's the... very clever ship analogy that you can make. Like, if you keep replacing your body parts, are you still the being that you used to be before, right? Why do we keep going on? What joy is there in this curse? So it is definitely a topic that they used in the storyline. But for Sylvanas, there is no surrender. We're going to keep on making more forces. More Valkyrie means more bonus lives, as she has been killed before. Once upon a time, it was said this was only able to be killed by Serenite, by throwing herself on top of Serenite that was able to kill her spirits. Turns out that a shotgun to the face does the trick as well. So she lost a couple of Valkyrie. There was also a Valkyrie that was lost in the Plague Lands during questing. Which is why it was such a big deal for Sylvanas to call upon the Valkyrie on the Broken Shore. Like, these are her bonus lives. These are her tethers that keep her away from that eternal damnation. Obviously, you would like to make more bonus lives if you could get that power. And that power was hidden here in Stormheim. Which brings us to the origin of the Valkyrie. It brings us to that whole story behind it. So, once upon a time, the Valkyrie were connected to Arthas the Lich King. But they were not the first generation of Valkyrie. Then we got the Valkyrie in Stormheim. They were then said to be the first of the Valkyrie, but they were not actually the first of the Valkyrie either. We learned of the first of the Valkyrie in Bastion in the Shadowlands. Odin learned about his Valkyrie by going through a ritual in which he sacrificed his eye. You might remember a certain eye giving you trouble in the maw. Yeah, that was Odin's eye. He sacrificed his eye in order to glimpse into the Shadowlands, where he learned about the Valkyrie, about how to make these beings that could ferry souls into his Halls of Valor. His Halls of Valor are actually a piece of Ulduar that he lifted into the sky when the other Titan Keepers wouldn't listen to him. When he told them, like, don't make dragon aspects. Dragons suck. We should just make Titan creations. Make Val'sharah. We just make Val'sharah, right? Like, proper, right, Titan beings, Titan forged. F your dragons, make some Val'sharah. And the other keepers were like, nah, we want some dragons, shut up. And he was like, but the Titans left me in charge. I'm Prime Designate. You need to listen to me. And they were like, nah, we're going to do what we want. If you don't listen to me, I'm going to take a piece of Ulduar. I'm going to live up in the sky. And they were like, yeah, you go do that. We're going to make ourselves some dragons. Have you seen Alexstrasza? Have you seen Ysera? Go away. So that's what he did. So with the Titan Sorceress Helya, with the Titan Forged Sorceress Helya, he lifted a piece of Ulduar into the sky, where he came up with the plan of making his Val'sharah. But in order to make like his metal men with spirits in there, in order to get the greatest of the Vraiku up in his halls, he needed those Valkyrie in order to ferry those spirits. But as a bit of a snag in his plans, bit of just a small technical little detail, which is being a Valkyrie sucks. Who wants to live between life and death? Who wants to ferry those souls? That sucks. Nobody stepped up to become a Valkyrie. So Odin was like, well, if nobody is going to volunteer, I will just force you to become a Valkyrie. And that was a step too far for Helya. And she was like, Odin, you can't do that. You can't force someone to be a Valkyrie. That's not cool. If you do, I'm going to bring your halls down again and you can suck it. And now Helya had made herself a target in Odin's eyes. He was like, yeah, but now you've become a threat to my plans. You telling me no? Do you not know who I am? I am Odin. I am man. You will follow my will, woman. And so he forced Helya to become the first of the Vraiku. More returned to the Vraiku. More were forced to serve Odin. They would ferry those souls to his Halls of Valor, the greatest amongst the Vraiku. Howdy, Halfyy. Thank you, beautiful. They would join him there. They would feast. It's very Norse mythology, if I remember right. In Odin's eye. So, that went on for a while. But then, and this is more connected with Loken. I spoke about it briefly at the beginning. Loken got corrupted by Yogg-Saron. It's a big story. But he got corrupted by Yogg-Saron, and he got really afraid that the Titans were going to find out. That is why he sent those Kefraks off to Tyr. That's why Tyr died in Tyr's fall. And it's also why he showed up to Helya, and he was like, knock, knock. Listen, Helya, baby. Hey, listen, right? My name's Loken. Do I have a deal for you? Listen, listen, listen. You use your magics to contain Odin in his Halls of Valor, right? You keep him in there. You make sure that he doesn't come out and see what I've done. I set you free from his control. How about it, Helya? Are we having a deal over here? She was like, hell yeah. Get it? Get it? So Helya and Helya, Helya was liberated. She locked Odin in his halls of valor. She went down below. Her sister Vrykul, her sister Valkyr, my apologies. They decided whatever they wanted to do. Some of them became spirit healers. Some of them just watched over the mortals. Helya went down to Helheim, where she, in order to piss off Odin even further, she took like the worst of the souls of the Vrykul, whatever souls she got her hands on, and she turned them into Kvaldir. So you got the Val'sharah, which were shiny and mighty and epic, and we got the party of Odin, and then you got the Kvaldir in Helheim. That's not where you wanted to end up, and that became Vrykul mythology. That became their society, the way of life. Like, becoming a Valkyr is something that they fought for, that they strove for. The 9 that wanted to liberate themselves from Bolvar's control, they too, once upon a time, warrior maiden who fought for the honor of becoming a Valkyr. So in their society, it was all very much warped, and it's a great honor to be so, but it wasn't. It sucked. But it did mean that there was the power to make more Valkyr, which was found right here. And from that note, we would follow the Horde and the Alliance. They would go through the zone. And not only would they prove themselves to Odin, they would eventually come here in the final confrontation, where the Horde helped out the War Chief, of course, and the Alliance tried to stop her. And again, Greymane got his vengeance. He was able to shatter Sylvanas' hopes and dreams. He was able to shatter her lantern. And that lantern was gifted to her by Helya. For the longest time, people were like, ooh, there's a bargain between the Banshee Queen and Helya. I wonder what that's about. Speculation galore. And ultimately, it just ended up with, oh yeah, Helya is an ally to the jailer, and so she provided it to Sylvanas. That's the explanation. Womp womp. But in this moment, it was pretty cool. It was all kinds of speculation. So, Greymane was very much poisoned. Sylvanas, her dreams of making more Valkyrie were shattered. And that's basically what we saw of the faction war. It played out here, and throughout the next of the expansion, it was basically I think there were towers that you could fight each other in. But that's about it. In the case of Odin, he had the Aegis of Agramar, one of the pillars of creation. We had to prove ourselves time and time again, are we worthy of getting the Aegis? At some point, there's God King Skovald who shows up, and he's like, great Odin, I'm worthier. And he's like, no, you're not. Yeah, I'll prove it. I'll kill these outsiders. And then we kill him. And we get the Age of Agramar. And we put it up in Dalaran. Oh. Also lightning dragons. Elemental lightning dragons. But they will come back into the story in Dragonflight. So, with the Pillars of Creation gathered, we returned to Dalaran. I think we, at that point, went back to the Broken Shore, ain't it? Let me just double check with the patches. But I'm pretty sure we went back to the Broken Shore, yeah? So we've done... Oh, God, this was so much, by the way. No. Oh, no, we did not. You know what we did? We went to Suramar. I completely spaced out on fucking Suramar. We did Suramar first, because there's one more that we needed to get. One more Pillar of Creation that is not in our position right now. So we have 4? Yeah, we needed one more. I have Amantul. Which brought us to the center zone, Suramar. Good lord. Suramar. Gotta train my Withered in Suramar. As I mentioned, this town, this city during beta times. Warriors join Odin in his Halls of Valor with Order Hall. Yeah. So this city was just absolutely marvelous during beta times. To see this slowly be built up, it's like, oh, this city is insane. And story-wise, the city became insane. It is one of my favorite cinematics that they've added to the game, which displays a small portion of Queen Azshara betraying them and the sundering of the world and whatnot. Visually, it looks really, really cool. What is happening here? 10,000 years ago, we had the War of the Ancients, right? The Burning Legion, summoning the whole Xavius thing that I told you about. In Suramar, they also saw the coming of the Legion. And they decided to use their powers to put a big old bubble around their city. And they decided to protect themselves against the destruction, against the war. Similar to, like, you know how, like, in Mist of Pandaria, the Emperor sacrificed himself, and, like, Pandaria floated away in mists? Well, these people just hid under the bubble. And for a very long time, they saw no sunlight, so they became the Nightborn. And different evolution of the elves. I've got a video up on elf evolution if you want to learn more. Elves are kind of like Eevees in WoW. They become all kinds of different things under different influences. In this case, they became the Nightborn. And they became very reliant on their Night Well. So you got the Well of Eternity, which was, you know, boom, after the War of the Ancients, and then Illidan made a new one. You got the Sunwell with the High Elves that became the Blood Elves. Here you got the Night Well. And it was infused with the powers of the Eye of Amantul, which is like powers over time. And they became addicted. That's another thing that elves are really good at, becoming addicted on certain things. So if you were naughty, they would exile you out of the city and disconnect you from the well, which would have you devolve. And it would devolve you into certain terms. I think you became a Withered and a Wretched, I think. But correct me if I'm wrong. I keep confusing the Blood Elves with the Nightborn ones. It's similar storylines. But being disconnected from the well was no good. That was kind of their culture. So they lived under the bubble, under the Night Well, the Nightborn, blah, blah, blah. And then the Legion returned with Gul'dan, Alter Gul'dan. And they did knock, knock, hello, Elisand, who was their leader. Knock, knock, hello, we are the Legion. Open up, or we're going to huff, we're going to puff, and we're going to bring your city down. And Elisand has the power over time. She could check the time streams, and she checked, and she checked, and she checked, and she did, like, Doctor Strange kind of situation, and she was like, okay, I can't even find a 1% success chance. Either we join the Legion or we get wiped out. Those are the two options that we have right now. There is no way that we can win. That is what the lady with the powers over time saw. But not every of the Nightborn was like, yeah, but no, even if there's no chance, we're not going to ally with the Legion. Are you crazy? This is not the way. So a rebellion was formed, and those that dared to stand up were kicked out. Kicked out of the city. Now that we're in trouble. Uh-oh, whoopsie-daisy. But don't worry, we're around. We can help you out. We're going to help you out with your Nightborn rebellion. And this led to one of the greatest quest lines that I've ever done, in my opinion. I know that a lot of people complain about time gating in Warcraft, and they don't always do it right. In Legion, we'll get to an example where they did it very poorly. But in my opinion, the Nightborn campaign was fantastic with the time gating. You slowly but surely worked your way through the city. You got more allies. You found a cure for that magical addiction. You figured out what the heck was going on. You got political people in there. At some point, you got a mount. So the idea with the city was you would have an illusion that would keep yourself protected, but certain guards were able to see you. That's where the whole meme comes from, for like, an illusion. What are you hiding? Something's not quite right. And at some point you would get a mount, which would actually give you that disguise while in the city. I don't know if it works on this one. I don't even know what it's called. Is it Nightborn? Nightborn. The Arcanist Mana Saber. If I had done the quest line, I'm pretty sure this would have, like, disguised me as a Nightborn, which was really, really sick. So, you know, it made it easy to go through the city. The dungeons were also related to going into the raid. And, yeah, we did the Suramar campaign. Up to the point where we entered the palace. We confronted Elisand, the queen. And Elisand was like, yeah, what the heck? I thought it was trolls who can become many things, and thus elves. Yeah, but like there's one into elves, and then the elves go into different species, right? But yeah, true. The dark trolls are the first point. It's true. Yeah, class-specific buffs. I was talking about a friend yesterday about the Quarter Stars and how interesting of a design it was, where the artifacts. There's a portion in the dungeon where you need to figure out, like, okay, who is who's like the one Dreadlord, I believe. And the shield would react because it's Truth Guard, so it can see through the skies. It would react to which one it was. Or there was just a minigame you could follow, or there was the other artifacts that would react as well. Demon Hunters with their True Sight, I think, were able to see certain stuff. Either way, very, very interesting dungeons. With professions, you could put down poison with alchemy and engineering and whatnot. The Withers training provided us with troops to go into the raid itself. There's like Withers that help out, and I think that's about it. I think it was just like support units. Because there was indeed, gotta train your Wither. There was a mini game in which you went through a scenario and you had to train your wizard. You would tell them to attack or to follow, and over time, they would get like different abilities and upgrade and all the good stuff. Really cool mechanic, in my opinion. So yeah, ultimately, we got to the raid. The elves united, so you saw like the night elves and the blood elves and the nightborn. Most of them got frozen on the bridge, but it's neither here nor there. We got to the raids, we confronted Elisand, and as I said, in checking the timeways, she was unable to see a way of winning this war. Now, admittingly, I will say, like, it would be boring if you have like 100% accuracy when it comes to reading prophecies, but at the same time, they did describe her as this person with power over time. How is it possible that she was unable to see victory, whereas we secured victory, right? So that was in the realm of speculation that's interesting to consider. Like, is somebody messing with the timeways? Like, how come we were able to get victory out here? That's something to consider. But then Gul'dan upstairs with the mythic only mode, if I remember right, of Illidan's body, like the demon within comes out. You presume to topple the peon and presume to take on its master. But we stop him and we put Illidan back into... Ricky, hello. We put Illidan back into his body. And then what's kind of interesting is if you check out the Illidan cutscene, I can show you. A little thing. Maybe you've noticed it. Maybe not. Maybe it's. I always thought was kind of funny. Now, this is all awesome. Obviously, this is all beautiful. I'm guessing that was supposed to bring over Sargeras' spirit or whatever. And Gul'dan has been following the orders of the Legion like a good little boy instead of betraying them. And yet still his plans fail. And then, of course... the fucking demon wings behind him. And he's like, hello. And this time around, he is the one disenchanting Gul'dan. Vengeance for Varian. Getting to his skull, and Illidan has that history with the skull of Gul'dan where he absorbed its powers once upon a time. And of course the Burning Crusade cutscene where he like ponders. Fun fact, that skull used to talk. But look.
You know what we face. Now.
So what we see here is Leiliadrin, and then there's Khadgar. That's fine. You know, they were there. They were part of the quests. And then Vrisa. All of a sudden, Vrisa shows up. And Vrisa is not part of the questing whatsoever. Which makes me wonder what happens between creating this cinematic and actually creating the quest lines in-game. How come poor Vrisa got cut out again? Why does Vrisa never get to do anything? So that's kind of fun.
Mortals, follow me
Into the abyss. Ugh. I'll follow you anywhere, Illy Willy. So yeah, Illidan returns in beautiful, epic fashion. Now we had all the pillars of creation. The Nightborn are at our sides. We've saved their people. We've gotten a... so they were addicted. No, Vrisa was not part of the rebellion as far as I remember. Or at least not part of the Nightborn of the raid. As far as I remember. Am I wrong? Oh, am I wrong? Quick, Vrisa Legion. Vrisa, along with Tron and her Sentinels, led the group of Silver Covenant War Mages Suramar to support the Nightfall and Rebellion in their attempts to reclaim Suramar from its burned Legion-aligned masters. Still vengeful for the death of her husband and now her king, she counseled against trusting the nearby hordes. Protect their flank. She asked the adventurer to check upon the scouts. She took part in the strike at the Suramar. Elisans then unleashed a time magic, trapping the entire elven army, Vrisa included, in a time stasis, causing their defeat. Vrisa was freed and later witnessed Illidan killing Gul'dan on top of Nighthold alongside Khadgar Leiliadrin. Yes, but that whole part of her getting freed was never part of it. We just instantly go upstairs. Yes. So she suddenly just shows up in a cutscene, even though she was a part of it. Yeah. Oh, stretch. Okay. Oh, that's a good stretch. Fuck, I need to do gym tomorrow, Jesus. Streaming for a very long time as well, but hey, that's leisure for you, ain't it? So we gotten ourselves Pillars of Creation. And everything is gathered in Dalaran. There's also the Trial of Valor. So the whole Odin storyline continued, in which Odin was like, hey, can you go and take care of Helya for me? Which we did, but not permanently, because she would return. And Karazhan reopened. Karazhan was a... If I remember right, they did the entire thing at the beginning, and they called it like a super duper special mega dungeon, where you went through the entirety of Karazhan, and later they split it up into 2 parts. I remember doing it on stream, and it took forever, but it was awesome. And at the end, something really weird happened with Medivh, who like talked to us and connected to Khadgar, refusing the powers of the Guardian. And it led to speculation, like, is Medivh still out there? But we've spoken about it before with, like, the echoes of the Tower of Karazhan. Is it really Medivh? Well, he hasn't really come back since, as far as I remember. He did write a book that Varian read in Battle for Azeroth, but, yeah. So that all happened, by the way, if I'm reading these patches. So in February the 18th, we got, like, the whole Demon Hunter Legion Invasion Broken Isles thing. Then 7.1 was October 25th, 2016, in which we did the whole Karazhan thing, the Trial of Valor, and the Night Holds. January 10th, so October, November, December. So 3 months later, we got a new Brawlers Guild, Mr. Pandaria Time Walking, Blaze Edge Arena class updates. Then October, November, December, January, February, March. 5 months later, they did the Broken Shore Zone. So we done Trial of Valor, we done the Nighthold raid, and then we go back to the Broken Shore to do the Tomb of Sargeras, the 7.2, the big boy patch, right? Okay. So I've spoken about how they did time gating really well before. And for Suramar, in my opinion, they did it really well. For the Broken Shore, they did absolutely shit. For some reason, they decided to take a campaign that was barely enough to entertain for a week. And they decided to spread it apart and just make it slowly but surely. Up to the point where there was 1 week where there was the haha questline where Khadgar was like, go bring me 500 crystals. So you get him 500 crystals. And then he goes, haha, I only needed 1. And that was it. And it's like, okay, neat. Cool. That was really funny. And meanwhile, everybody is like, I just want to play a campaign, you know? What the fuck is this? So, the Broken Shore was kind of ass, in my opinion. I did not enjoy the farming. They did do something really cool, which is, depending on the class that you play, the units on the Broken Shore were different. So, if a Shaman, you would have your Shaman Order Hall. As a Paladin, you would have your Paladin Order Hall. I'm not a Death Knight, am I? Is that because I haven't done the questline? Huh. I remember different, like, again, the classes coming together. Or maybe it was just all the classes coming together. Maybe that's what I'm remembering. Either way, again, class order halls doing their thing, right? It's not factions, it's the classes that are forefront. I will say I never really enjoyed the whole you are the High Lord, you are the Death Lord, because everybody was the High Lord and everybody was the Death Lord. It didn't feel like my story. Because, you know, they crowned me king and then the next player teleported in and they were crowned king. So we didn't like that part, but the order halls themselves were kind of awesome. When did they do the Mage Tower? Is this when they added new artifact appearances from solo class mastery quests? That must be the Mage Tower, right? Okay, so I'm gonna go on a limb and say that this is when they added the Mage Tower. Now the Mage Tower... Oh... I didn't get the Mage Tower at first, but thanks to stream, I got it later. I did... Okay, so the Mage Tower is... You could build buildings on the Broken Shore. You could, like, allocate resources, and I think it rotated on a weekly basis. So what they would offer you were unique solo challenges to a Red Paladin, to a Protection Paladin, to a Healing Paladins. The healers and the tanks and the DPS and whatnot, they got, like, their challenges. And when I say unique, I do believe a couple of the classes shared like the same bosses, but you would still have to overcome them with your class. You would still have to figure out, like, okay, I got these utilities. How do I overcome these fights? And as the rewards, you would get appearances for your skins, for your weapons. So I'm on my hunter right now. I don't think I've done any of them on my hunter. But like my druid, for example, has the werebear form, has like the Winnie the Pooh form. Or the kitty form. And my Paladin has the Retribution one and the Protection one, like unique skins that you could earn with the Mage Tower. And in my opinion, they were challenges. Now, I remember talking to other streamer friends, and they were like, oh, you know, the Paladin one, the Red Paladin one was the easiest. But for me, doing it early on, I was like, this is really, really cool. I really love these solo challenges. In the same vein that I love the Brawlers Guild, I was like, this is so cool to overcome. Unfortunately, the loud people on the internet, Cloney, thank you so much for the 98, nearly 100. The loud people on the internet did not agree because they couldn't get it, and that was unfair. They paid a subscription just as anybody else, and so they too should be able to get this skin. And this is a discussion we're not gonna go into in order to keep it to the storyline, but I'm not a fan of that mentality. As well as it became a lot easier later on, like the gear and the upgrades, the artifacts made the Mage Tower a lot more accessible. I will say the entrance fee was a bit ass because you had to farm a certain entrance fee in order to get in. So you only had an X amount of tries in order to get your thing, and otherwise you were farming, and that farming was just boring. I would have done without the entry fee. I would just be like, here, overcome this challenge. But I love the Mage Tower, man. It's one of the coolest things that I've ever added to the game. I do believe that they've added like a redo of it. But I must admit, I haven't really jumped into it ever since, again. Next to that, the Broken Shore campaign. We got back in here. I believe this is also when they added the followers. So you got a bit more storyline, and we eventually got back to the Broken Shore. Meanwhile, on the Alliance side, like this is where Anduin lost his father, Varian. And Anduin was struggling, right? Like, oh god, now I need to lead. What do I do? And one of the better cutscenes is where he shows up here. And he picks up Charlemagne. And he has like that moment where Anduin becomes Manduin. I will say, they pushed him so hard that he kind of fell back. But he fell back in an understandable way, but it still sucks to see. It just sucks to see that you have to go through it, ain't it? I'm trying to find Varian's leg. I'm pretty sure Varian's leg is here somewhere. Well, that's just the player. That's not the thing I'm looking for. Oh, yeah, here. I think here it is. Yeah, there you go. That's Varian's boot. Did you know that they kept Varian's boot here? And you might say, oh, man, that's disrespectful. You're keeping his boot here. But there's also Vol'jin's tusk that drops from Gul'dan. So there's also that. Yeah. So here we went into the Tomb of Sargeras. And the Tomb of Sargeras is a large history with the Guardian, where Aegwynn once upon a time fought against the Avatar Sargeras. She won, but actually his spirit entered her body. From that spirit, he entered the body of Medivh. With Medivh, he opened the Dark Portal, caused the first invasion of the Horde, all that death and destruction. But the Avatar, she locked away here. So as we went in, we actually fought against the remnant of that Avatar as its corruption was seeping out. We also placed those Pillars of Creation in order to seal off that gateway that was opened up by Gul'dan. But in the end, we realized that we couldn't let Kil'jaeden go. In the end, we realized, because we got Illidan back, right? Illidan knows, like, you could defend the world as much as you like. The Legion is just going to come back again and again and again and again. We need to take it at the source. We need to give him the good old ball twist. So we jumped through that portal. And I do believe that we placed, like, the Eye of Amantul over it in order to seal it off. Somebody did that. But we jumped on a spaceship and we joined Kil'jaeden into the Twisting Nether all the way to Argus. Into the one place where, you know, Kil'jaeden could be perma-killed as well. And that's why I'm like, okay, they just wanted to take care of our command. They wanted to take care of Kil'jaeden. Eventually, the ship crashes on Argus. But before it does, Illidan uses that Sargerite Keystone. You know what? I should just show you the cutscene, ain't it? That would explain so much more.
Our fates are now one. Argus will be your tomb.
Hi, Argus.
At least we will have died fighting. Our war isn't over yet.
So that right there is that Sargerite Keystone, and as we can see, Illidan can just use it to make a portal or open up a rift between wherever they are with Argus and directly to Azeroth.
Not where we hold the key to all worlds.
So why didn't Sargeras do this? A good question.
Khadgar, take us home. I was always envious of you. Your gift, your faith, your vision. I never believed that Sargeras could be stopped. Perhaps you will prove me wrong. Everyone, get ready!
Okay, bye. We did it, Khadgar. Look! The day has been saved, but uh-oh. Uh-oh. What have you done?
What have you done? Sometimes the hand of fate must be forced.
Illidan, I worked on a video with like top 10 favorite quotes of Warcraft. Illidan is just a one-line machine. It's like Garrosh. It just has so many cool lines. So here, Illidan was like, you know what? We can defend this world as much as we like. But hear me out. What if we take the battle straight to Argus? And this is different than what they've done in the books. Like in the books, they made the idea of, okay, he's going to connect like the Black Temple to Argus, like anchors or whatnot. But no. A rift between Azeroth and Argus. The one thing that Sargeras always wanted. Because it's great that we can now go to the enemy, but so too, the enemy can just go to us. Like, okay. What was amazing, though, visually, is that now across the entire planet, be it leveling, be it whatever you're doing, Argus was in the sky. And it was so sick to see. I still have a couple of recordings with Argus in there. It was just such a cool effect. Constantly above your heads was the dread of, you know, that's where we're gonna go next. That's what's gonna happen. It was sick as hell. So it was a really cool effect. So we done the Tomb of Sargeras, we done Broken Shore. When did they do Light's Heart? I don't remember when they did Light's Heart. The Deaths of Chromie scenario threw in there as well. Don't think that ever connected anywhere. So there was the Deaths of Chromie scenario, was gameplay. It was really fun gameplay, I will say. I liked the gameplay. Where somebody wanted to kill Chromie and we had to stop that. But recently they showed with Dragonflight that you could just mess with the timeline and it's okay. So don't know how that works. Okay. So somewhere along the way, I forgot what I wanted to say now. Oh yeah, Light's Heart. So I'm trying to remember when they did it. I don't really remember when exactly, but at some point we found a mysterious crystal in the water. And every class was able to pick this up and get the initial quest line. But I think the Paladin or the Hall was the canon one that got it. I think. Or maybe it's a long time ago. Anyways, we get like this crystal. And we bring it to Velen. And what did you know it? Velen and the Draenei are under attack. And Velen has had a vision of this attack once upon a time. So we help out the Draenei. And as it turns out, Velen had a son. Oh, Velen had a son? Yeah, he had a son. And he was like, stop, don't attack this Eredar, this minion of the Burning Legion. And we're like, yeah, we can't stop now. I'm full swinging. And we murdered his child. Velen had a vision of his child dying in his arms like this. The crystal was with a Naru, and we find out that the crystal is actually part of Zera, the Prime Naru. And it's a message from the Army of the Light. In between, they gave us, because I'm trying to remember, like, how did they actually explain that this happened? They gave us an audio drama on YouTube. Legion just had so much. They gave us an audio drama on YouTube called 1,000 Years of War, where they explained in full detail in a beautiful audio drama what happened to Illyria and Trevelyan between the Dark Portal closing back with Warcraft 2 and them returning to us now. And turns out that Illyria and Trevelyan were approached by something called the Army of the Light, Lorecraft, that light dreadlord that had joined the Paladins at this point. They had joined the Army of the Light, and time in the Twisted Nether does not work the same as it does in Azeroth. For us, I don't know, 30 years have passed since they've gone missing. For them, they've been fighting thousands and thousands of years of war. Now, for an Illyria, as an elf, you're very long-lived. So for her, that might not have been the biggest issue. But what about Trevelyan? How did that man survive for so very long? Well, turns out that Trevelyan joined a cult. Trevelyan joined the cult of Zera. He got her light blessing, which extended his life. Made him one with the light. And for Trevelyan, that wasn't a big deal. You know, Zera, he loves her. It's great. But it did create a bit of a conflict between him and the missus. Because Illyria, as much as she tried, the light was not her path. She could wield it a little bit, but it wasn't really her thing. And at some point, she realizes that the void is her destiny. She was gonna fall into the void, because the void is the thing that allowed to save her. You know... And does he still have the blessing? I am imagining since she is gone now that blessing is gone, but I don't know for sure. Don't know if they ever confirmed that. So at some point, Illyria saves her hubby Trevelyan with the power to the void. And he's like, I'd rather have seen you die than fall to darkness. And it's like, wow, that's really rude to say. And he's like, you should repent yourself to Zera, because Zera knows the way. And she's like, no, because Zera will just kill me. And from Lorecraft, which could still play part in speculation, in Lorecraft, she had found out about the Locust Walker. And the Locust Walker was like this badass void wielder that the Legion feared and the demons feared, because the void could like perma-kill the demons no matter where they are. And he's Lightforged. Imagine he's still Lightforged, gotcha. And he's like, nobody's been able to find the Locust Walker yet, but you have fun with that. Good luck. So at some point, Illyria, in the place where we joined Verisa to get the bow artifact questline, Illyria got tortured. And in the audio drama, she describes it as, this torturer, I've been tortured so much better by the previous one. This one really sucks, which indicates that she's been there for a very long time, and that she's not exactly had the easiest of time. But she found the Locust Walker, she sets each other free, and it turns out that Illyria is quite the prodigy when it comes to wielding the void. She is quite the child of destiny. So she goes through the rituals in order to control the voices, because most people, when they deal with the void, they go crazy. But her anchors, her loved ones, an Illyria, a Arator, they're the ones who keep her stable. So at some point, she goes through these visions, and she's like, okay, I can throw myself off the cliff, fully into darkness, fully embrace it, go Super Saiyan mode. But she also realized that it wasn't the right time. She could, she would, but it wasn't the right time at that point. And then she gets like visions about Trevelyan nearly dying. So she goes out, she saves Trevelyan, and then Zera shows up, and Zera's like, what are you doing? You are void, you are corrupted. Jail, straight to jail. So she was thrown into jail. And that's kind of when we show up. Because we had like this roadway to Argus. So we joined Velen in the repaired Exodar? Or different Vindicar. No, we joined Velen in the Vindicar. Whatever, we join him in a spaceship. We go to Argus. And Illidan is like, the light sucks. The light's for losers. How can you have faith in the light? And Velen is like, just you wait, you handsome elf with your abs. They'll show up. And they do. They do show up. And then they get shot down. Ha. And that's Illyria's chance to escape. And that's when we reunite with Illyria and Trevelyan on the planet of Argus. And we join this army of the light. It's been fighting the demons for thousands and thousands of years. And that's when the Argus patch hits. And Argus, for me, was a bit of a hit and a miss. I really liked the raids. And I really liked the storyline. But the farming on Argus was ass. They took away flying. And the zones were poorly designed for walking. What does Exodar mean in the common tongue? I have no idea. Does it have a name? Is it like exiled and like vindicated? If it's refuge, yeah. Well, there you go. I know that Draenei is exiled once. Refuge. That was Draenor. I think it's like Electured. Okay, Argus. Here we are. I wasn't a big fan of the gameplay in Argus, but it was neither here nor there. And we learn more about the Draenei history. We also find out they're like broken on the planet. And that's the storyline I never really understood. So there was like this friend of Velen who in the cutscene told Velen, you stay behind. You take care of my family. You go, you run. I'll hold the line. And Velen is like, oh no! And then he calls upon the Naru to save them and get them off the planet. But then when they reunite, the man who stayed behind was really upset. And I get it. Living on Argus must suck, but that's not Velen's fault. Why is he mad at Velen? Velen did what he told him to do, which was run. Like, why are you mad at Velen? And you might say, oh, maybe that was just in a moment where, you know, if they talk about it, they'll work it out. No. Only recently, in like the Draenei Heritage Armor questline, did this trio of very sexy Draenei come closer together. So that's the thing. Either way, we united with the Army of the Light. We brought Xera her core back, which reactivated Xera. And then that prophecy that was established for Illidan in the Illidan novel, right? Like the child of shadow and light. That's also what Xera tells us in the Light's Heart questline. As she enters our minds, she's like, I'm looking for Illidan. Have you seen him? And we're like, well, we kind of killed him. And she's like, you did what? And it's like, well, he did bad things. And she's like, you're wrong. He didn't do bad things. He is the bestest. And it's like, are you... I know Illidan is awesome, Xera, but are you sure? He did some bad... Have you seen his Den of Delights? Xera. He's like, no, Illidan is the greatest. So finally, Illidan has come where he was supposed to be. That she was. There was no bigger fan of Illidan than fucking Xera.
We are blessed to be in your presence once more,
Xera, whatever. So in my mind, I was like, oh, this is where the book comes together, ain't it? This is where we bring this prophecy to close.
Turalian, you have found the chosen one.
Yeah, but his light's dim when she dies, I'm pretty sure.
Illidan, from birth, the light in your eyes held such promise for the future.
I sacrificed that birthright long ago.
Do you not wish to reclaim what was lost? To be whole again?
The Legion's end is all I seek.
My child, you've given so much for so little. Your true potential, your redemption, lies before you. Let go of your shattered form and embrace the light's power.
I've traded my freedom for power before.
The prophecy must be fulfilled.
Bad touch. Bad touch. Nope.
Your old life has passed. The light will forge you a new one.
It is not yours to take.
The light will heal your scars.
I am my scars.
The light is your destiny.
My destiny is my own.
Bye, light.
You've doomed us all, betrayer!
And that small detail of the blood actually in his hand.
Your faith has blinded you. There can be no chosen one. Only we can save ourselves.
And this was such a, like, you gotta imagine the build up to him becoming the child of Shadow and Light, the destined holy bat flying across the battlefield in the book, in the storyline, in the Zeta Light Heart questline. It was all leading to that one point. And then they're like, gotcha. We rotated. This is motherfucking Illidan Stormrage. This man will forge his own path. So fucking well done. So good. So yeah. He refused that destiny, but it did not mean that we were going to stop trying to find a way to end the Legion. So for some reason, that meant that we needed to upgrade our spaceship. And it was like the Crown of the Triumvirate that we got, which was like an artifact amongst Draenei that they had. It turned our ship golden, this one guy. And it allowed us to get into Antorus, the Burning Throne, like the seat of power of Sargeras and the Burning Legion. Like look at this view, right? Like, fuck, man, Legion was something else. Legion was something else, swear. So yeah, like I said, I wasn't a big fan of Argus. The farming gameplay was not for me, but it was cool to see like the home world of the Draenei and what was happening. There was lore-wise one thing that was weird in this setting, which is, I think what they were trying to go for is that what we would uncover in the 1,000-Year War, we would uncover as the story went on, is that Argus had a Titan soul inside, a world soul, which was enslaved by the Legion. And what they pitched as the idea is that the demon's immortality came from the enslavement of Argus. And that is something that doesn't work with the lore, Executive Pirate. Hello there. That doesn't work with the lore because way back when, the demons could already respawn. And that is why Sargeras built his prison world. That is why he had a prison world to break open in order to become like Fel-infused and stuff. So that never really worked out. So the way that I always interpreted it is that Argus sped up the process instead of making it possible. But there's most definitely arguments and discussions to be made about, yeah, the dialogue. So, the duel. The dialogue seems to indicate that it is Argus, which is responsible for giving the demons their respawner, right? Next to that, as LOD Rogue points out, are you going to talk about Broxigar? So, in the War of the Ancients trilogy, in that book, we read about Kresus, Ronin, and Broxigar going back in time. And fun fact, we're actually going to be talking about it in tonight's video in the story of Ronin Part 2. But in that storyline, there is Broxigar, who jumped through the portal at the Well of Eternity, and he starts chopping away, Exosonars in hand. This badass starts to create like a mountain of demon corpses underneath him, and then he feels a presence. Sargeras himself has showed up, and he's like, "What up, little orc?" And he roars defiantly at Sargeras, and he strikes out the one mortal, as far as we know, with the minor adjustments of the artifacts, that was actually able to strike Sargeras. And of course, the corrupted Titan impaled him quickly and like, yoink! But here's the thing. Broxigar, as much of Neck's work, never really made it into World of Warcraft. Like, Ronin didn't really get a lot of storyline either. So the question was, like, okay, did this time travel? Did this really happen? Is it part of the timeline? We do have a book in which Ronin shows up at Serana Malfurion's wedding, because he had, like, that whole connection. I was going to say something else. What was I going to say? The Exosonarius didn't really come back in, but Fura did save Malfurion from the nightmare with it. So it is part of the official lore. So the timeline has changed. Oh, yeah. In the Light's Heart questline, we would go through Illidan's memories, and they would send us back to that War of the Ancients, where you can actually see Broxigar. And you can also see Ronin and Kresus up in the sky. And what I will say is that the Broxigar in that questline is a big Illidan lover, which the original Broxigar never was. Which is why the whole idea of Zeta is a big Illidan fan is kind of, you know, Zeta altering history, making Illidan look better than he actually was, right? which is how point of view actually works to their favor, which I always thought kind of cool. But here we actually have confirmation that Broxigar stood against Sargeras. Long after the Emerald Flame took her home, the Legion took to open a gate to a new world. Never had they lusted for any conquest as much as this lush, primitive land. Just as the army set forth, a green-skinned warrior stepped through the gate. He wielded a single blade and roared a single cry in battle. Mountains of flesh and bone grew as he carved through the demon's ranks. His defiance drew the attention of the Dark One, who came to see his ends. The warrior struck but one blow before he fell, but he was never forgotten. So they have a shrine to Broxigar on fucking Argus, which is 100% confirmation that it actually happened. And such a nice touch as well. So very, very cool. So here, as I mentioned, for Illyria, quite a bit happens. Like, our Void Prodigy would eventually go into the Seat of the Triumvirate, if I remember right, if that's the dungeon is called. Yeah, where she ate Lura. So, Illyria ate a Naru, a darkened Naru, and got a Void power-up. Unfortunately, her Void form didn't really show up afterwards, if I recall correctly. But she did get a Void power-up, so that's kind of nice. Locust Walker at her side. Again, she's like this Void Prodigy, so that's kind of cool. Illyria, Tyrellian, Magni is also there. Like the crystallized form who'd woken up. Magni is part of this whole storyline. And together we joined forces and we went into Antorus, the Burning Throne, to take the battle to the Legion once and for all. And in there we found out something rather interesting. Which is, Sargeras got his hands on the spirits of the Titans. And that was interesting because in the Chronicles, they described it that once upon a time, Sargeras and the Titans fought with each other. Sargeras won because he was fell infused, but they were able to send their spirits back to Azeroth before he was able to finish them off. And those spirits, they flew into the Keepers, which is why that whole Loken falling to Yogg-Saron storyline happened. But then, what happened to their spirits? In the case of Raden, we read about Lei Shen potentially eating it. And then Rephion ate the heart of Lei Shen and had his vision where he goes like, "Oh, we have fallen. We must rebuild the final Titan. Do not forget." Was that him eating the spirit and then it went up here? Like, what's happening here? And I don't think they actually ever fully explained how the Titan spirits ended up here. They just did. And they were being tortured by Sargeras for millennia because he wanted to create like a dark pantheon. He wanted his brothers and sisters, his brother and sister, to turn to his side, to turn to the dark side. Now, Eonar had been able to hide away. But the others were being tortured. And we saved them from the Coven of Shivara. We set their spirits free. We also managed to save Eonar from the Legion invasion of her domain in like hold the line kind of fights. And as we went through Antorus, if memory serves, you look up in the skybox, you can actually see the Sargeras cloud getting closer and closer to Azeroth. Because with Illidan's plan, as cool as it is that we get to go fight our enemies can also claim what they wanted all along, which is, you know, Azeroth. There has been the question back then, like, how come Sargeras didn't just instantly show up and take Azeroth? Because it did take some time before we went to Argus. In my mind, I always had the funny explanation that Sargeras was floating through space, little suitcases in hand, was going, gonna find Azeroth today, I don't know where it is, but I'm gonna find it. And then halfway through, he gets like a call from the Legion, and he's like, "Boss, listen, right? Listen. I'm sitting here having some coffee with John of the office. And in front of us, right? The thing you've been looking for, boss man. You need to come back." And he's like, "Oh, shit. Need to come back." So he had time to travel back to Argus in order to get what he wanted. But that was just in my mind. They never given a true explanation. What they have explained is that Sargeras wanted Azeroth. And we wanted to stop him. So, we've liberated the Pantheon. We stand with our creators in some cases. At the seat of the Pantheon, they try to stop Sargeras, but Sargeras turns Arg's soul against us. And in a weird C-section corruption kind of birth, lost of your powers, we need to fight against Argus. And I'm just thinking, Did Legion truly offer us 3 mythic-only fights? With, like... Because Argus turns into his red form. Illidan had the Demon Within. Did the Tomb of Sargeras had, like, a mythic-only phase? Or Helya? I don't know. Either way, there was a special mythic phase with Argus. There was a whole speculation about Argus being like this Titan of Death and whatnot. And now it would play a part in the Shadowlands, but we'll get to that, I guess, when we go to the Shadowlands. Kil'jaeden did, so there would be 3 bosses with like a mythic only phase. Interesting. A mythic transformation. Interesting. Fuck, it is so much with Legion. Anyways, we stopped Argus, and we managed to stop Sargeras. Or do we? And that leads us to Sargeras defeat cinematic.
Mortals,
It is time.
we must gather our strength. Return home, children of Azeroth.
You are not coming.
We've done all we can. Every choice, every sacrifice has led me to this moment. To face him once again. You are not coming with us. The hunter is nothing without the hunt.
Oh yeah.
Did you not see this fate?
Maiev kind of dipped out halfway through the expansion, and rumor had it that her voice actor had trouble with her voice. But unfortunately, they brought Maiev back with the whole explanation of her brother Jared misunderstood her. She went into the Cathedral of Night, where she was still flirting with Illidan, and then she just kind of disappeared, which I always thought was a shame.
Prophet. Fate. Our survival was never in fate's hands.
This bit as well. I always thought that in this moment, Velen learns, like, you know, destiny and fate and whatnot. We make our own fate. But nah. Visions and destiny is still very much a part in the Warcraft story. They still very much care about it. I always thought that Velen, the prophet, learns, like, I shouldn't, you know, prophet. Oh, yeah, I mean...
With you, Illidan Stormheim.
Illidan and Maiev, like... I don't know if necessarily Illidan and Maiev together. Like, I ship them 100%. But what I find worse, because there's arguments to be made about the whole, you know, the haters to lovers or whatnot. What I hate is Tyrande Illidan. I hate that in his final moments, they gave him a cutscene where his mind goes to Tyrande. And it's like, dude, you are so much better than her. You deserve so much better than Tyrande. I think there were accusations OST, and then before anything was proven or done, actions were already taken. No! So this right here is still visible in the sky. Like, a lot of people are like, what is that red star in the sky? It is the last remnant of that rift that Illidan opened between Argus and Azeroth. Now, he is at the seat of the Pantheon, which, if I remember right, is like a different location. And once upon a time in an interview, they mentioned, like, yeah, keep an eye on that star. If something happens with that star, we're in trouble or blah, blah, blah. Which, of course, had everybody hyper-focus on that star. And so far, it's done fuck all. But it's there. It's in the sky. In my mind, it's more like... It's a replacement for what Argus was. So Argus in the sky, to me, was like a constant reminder of the threat that was waiting for us. And that red star is a constant reminder of the threat that we overcame, like what we've left behind there. But I imagine that if Illidan... Sorry, when Illidan returns, right? Let's be fair. When Illidan returns, that star opening up could definitely be a thing. Like, hello, everybody! We're back! Da-da-da-da-dum. We've done it, everybody! Legion is over! The Legion is saved. But, uh-oh. It can't ever be simple, can it? Dun, dun, dun. See you in the next one. See you in the next one. What sword, indeed. We got like a final farewell for Illidan, where he's like... Can you go bring this letter to Malfurion and Tyrande? And the response Malfurion and Tyrande give to Illidan's last words. Tyrande says something in the direction of, such thrice words. And it's like, the man has sacrificed everything. Right? Like, he did exactly what you asked him to do. And it's like, you could be... It's ridiculous to begin with that Malfurion and Tyrande did not interact with Illidan in the Legion expansion to begin with. Like, that's ridiculous on its own. But then the farewell is, like, bitchy. And it's like, I don't know if I trust his words. Like, really? Really? The man saved the world. Like, a simple thank you will do, right? But okay. You know. He didn't do it with nature magic. He didn't do it with druidism. And don't get me wrong, Illidan has been a massive, arrogant asshole. Has made a lot of mistakes. But that's not all what he's done. Has, you know, and I'm just saying, imprisoning someone for life and then making him immortal, kind of a dick move, not gonna lie. kind of a dick move. Oh. But yeah, that was Legion. We spent a lot of time talking about Legion. Like I said, for me, all in all, Legion is my favorite expansion that they've done. If not just for the sheer volume of what they added to the game. The content, the storylines, all the stuff to do. Was it perfect? No, of course not. Like I said, I think the biggest problem that Legion had was the legendary system. There was a bit about farming artifact power, but I felt like the artifact power was more a problem for the really high-end raiders. For me, as the casual, I was perfectly fine with just doing the things. Beyond that, like I said, like the story was just great. And they left the sword in Silithus behind for the next expansion, which is Battle for Azeroth. That's gonna be for next time. For now, we've done Legion. And like I said, that expansion, it will forevermore have a special place. Now, I don't know if and when they would do Legion Classic, if I would play that, to be honest. I don't know if I would, because I've been through it. Like, I don't necessarily need to do it again, I suppose. But a Legion remix. With a revamped Mage Tower. Blizzard, I'm just saying, I would give you a lot of money. I would give you a lot of money for that. Pretty sure. Bring back the old skins. Do it in like a remix version. Woof.